Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to the Bourbon and BS podcast, live on Facebook. We've got a special guest, first-time guest this week, Q.
What's up?
He goes by Q. Do you want to give your whole name?
Alberto Marquez.
Yeah, I can't say it like that, but it's Alberto Marquez.
There we go.
All right. So welcome. And we've got Nate Hale also on your stage right. And we've got some cigars tonight from La Aurora and Romeo Julieta, BS Cigar Company, a couple others floating around here. And then we've got a special bourbon tonight that we're going to get into. It's called Peg Leg Porker, Tennessee Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So we're going to be getting into that. I'm going to go ahead and share it, and then we'll get into the sponsors and everything on the audio. So if you guys want to – actually, Nate, if you want to talk about the sponsors for the video portion of it here.
Yeah, so the La Aurora 115, newer cigar from La Aurora, Miami Cigar Company. That's being brought to us tonight by Tinderbox at Easton, Columbus, Ohio. Our second cigar tonight is going to be the Romeo and Julieta 1875 Bully, and that is being provided to us by our other sponsor, Altadis USA. So you got Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo, H. Upman, Butera, Onyx, a whole slew of other ones. So we're still finalizing the details for the second year of sponsorship from them, and hopefully some other goodies that'll help us out here with the production. Third sponsor this evening is the BS Cigar Company, Brian and Steve. So best in Nicaragua, best of Columbus rolled in Nicaragua since 2014.
That's right.
Still got plenty of silvers in for the holidays, and looks like the golds hopefully by St. Patrick's Day, unless there was that's the hope, unless there was another issue that came up in the last week since we found that out. So if you're watching, please be sure to like it, share the video. If you've never left us a review, please go on Bourbon and BS podcast Facebook page and leave us a review, preferably a 5-star, but just be honest. We always encourage your comments, your feedback, anything else you guys might have to help us out. And then we're also on Patreon. So if you want to become a sponsor of the podcast and help us out a little bit, that goes towards, buying mics and cables, soundboards, whiskey, because right now, yes, the cigars are being provided to us by our sponsors, but the whiskey we're still buying every week. And, except for a night like tonight where we have one of our viewers who's generous enough to provide a bottle of whiskey for us. That always helps. And if you're in the Columbus area and, you can't do Patreon or something like that, feel free to come by Tinderbox and drop off a bottle, and we'll feature it on the podcast. I'm sure Steve wouldn't mind that.
No,
not at all. And even our guest Q brought another bottle for us to drink tonight. He brought the Heaven's Door Tennessee Bourbon, which we featured not too long ago when Dustin was in the garage with us. So let us know if you're listening on Facebook Live. Let us know what you're drinking, what you're smoking, just so long as you're not behind the wheel of a car. So Q, what is up with you?
You can do one of those things behind the wheel of a car.
Smoke.
You can pick whatever you want. I mean, pick, but you can do one. I'm just saying one.
Preferably the cigar.
Legally and safely.
Okay, there we go.
Let's start the audio. Let's get into this. You want to just roll right in?
Sure.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, so.
Yeah. Happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Bourbon and BS podcast, episode 97. We have a great episode tonight for you guys, and I want to start off with part one here and thank our sponsors. So tonight, and for those of you listening on Facebook Live, you've already heard this, so check us out every Wednesday night at 7:30-ish on our Facebook page. But Tinderbox at Easton for providing the La Aurora 115th anniversary cigar. We'll be diving into that here shortly, also for the continued support. And then also we have Altadis USA, who we have tonight, the Romeo Julieta 1875 Bully size. So thank you, Altadis USA, for the continued support, as well as the weekly second cigar. And then also BS Cigar Company. I've got a beautiful BS Silver staring me right back in the face, just like I like it. Nate's got a cigar in his mouth. We got Nate Hale. What? I didn't bring enough BS for everyone. Q. Also, we have Nate Hale. You know, here, fine. Jeez, here you can have my BS silver, but just keep it looking at me.
Scored.
We have Nate Hale on the board as also on the mic tonight, and then we also have a special guest for the first time. It is Q Marquez. And he is a local guy here in Columbus, Ohio. He has ties to the cigar industry as well as, I guess, other industries, really,
Yes.
around town and all over. So known Q for quite some time. Happy to have him on. He and I have been talking about having him as a guest on this show for quite some time. So
10 years.
Not 10 years. We haven't been doing this for 10 years.
No, I've known you for 10 years.
Known me for 10 years. Make sure you're talking to the microphone.
It's been 10 years now. I've known you.
It has been. Yeah. There's been a lot of like older crowd coming back. It's funny around the holidays, it seems, around the shops. And I think that's nationwide, but in cigar shops especially. But you see people like last night we had a guy in that I haven't seen in probably 2 years, and he smoked a cigar, and we chatted for like 45 minutes. So if Ruvain is out there, appreciate seeing you last night, Ruvain. But I think it happens around the holidays quite a bit. I wanted to say if you're on the audio only and you're not watching, you're not participating in the conversation on Facebook Live, we do appreciate any likes, shares, reviews, the 5 stars, whatever stars you think we deserve on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Luminary, Overcast, whatever you're really listening to. I think there's there's other ones too. But check us out on any of them. Share them. If anyone's listening to podcasts out there in your family, friends, or social circle, please check us out as well. So, Nate?
Yes, sir.
Holiday season, how's it going?
It's a lot busier at work than I thought it was going to be this time of year. And then I'm still dealing with the same car issues that I was dealing with last time. Hopefully get that wrapped up soon before the new year. But yeah, still dealing with that stuff. But the one comforting fact is I know the guy that's doing the work is going to take care of it. He's going to treat me right. He's not going to gouge me or anything like that, and I trust the work that he does. So I at least have that. I mean, anyone who's owned a vehicle knows how stressful car issues can be, especially when it's something that you've had major issues with the vehicle. So, like I've had to get valve cover, gasket, thermostat, heater hose or coolant hose, and throttle body.
I like how you can laugh about it, even though I can see the sadness and anger kind of in the eyes, but he's laughing. Yeah, it's like the beginning of becoming a sociopath.
Well, I think I talked about that the one time not too long ago that I was on about how sometimes inside I might have my own crap that I'm dealing with, but I can put on a face of hey, everything's good. Especially when I'm at the shop, like all my worries go away when I'm at the shop typically because that's work and it's something I enjoy. So. Right. That's one of those nice releases and escapes.
That is good. And Q, if you want to give a shout out to your tobacconist occupation, your tobacco retail store here in the Columbus area as well.
Well, yeah, I work for. I'm the manager over at. This is nerve-wracking.
Don't worry, I just put the live feed right in front of you so you can see what everyone's saying. Don't worry, it's not nerve-wracking at all.
I'm the manager over at Governor's Cigar Lounge out of Westerville on College Avenue. We currently just purchased Barclay on Lane and Barclay on Sawmill Road. So right now they got me semi-running 3 shops.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
I'm all over the place, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome.
I'm thankful.
No, we're happy to have you on because I think it gives a different perspective. We've had people from the cigar industry, the whiskey industry. We've had bartenders. We've had reps. We've had, owners like Eric Espinosa. We've had them on. So I'm usually the one that's kind of holding it down. And, I mean, like Jake and then Nate also are in the retail side of it. But you're, I think, the first person that's full-time. Like, this is
what I do.
This is the career.
Yeah,
this
we
is
talked
the career.
about this.
I know, and it's great. So
I remember all the calls.
Yeah, you and I had a lot of conversations. Yeah,
I was like, Steve, what should I do? Steve, this is going on. Steve.
Basically,
but you were also the first person to one of the first to truly welcome me at Tinderbox.
Really?
What's the gentleman that just retired a couple of years ago from the trash company?
Barnes, yeah.
Tall, black, older gentleman.
Yep, Byron Barnes.
Till this day, I walk in there. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what he's doing. Hey, Q, how you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
Does not matter. And then you were also, because remember, we had that problem. Well, it wasn't a problem. I used to work for the Monte Cristo, and again, the stereotype, the little cliche. So some of the people were kind of nervous to talk to me because the experiences they had with Diab.
Yeah, exactly.
Personally.
Yeah, I mean,
But
the
yeah,
community's strong, but it is something that, that's welcoming, but at the same time, you don't want to misstep.
Exactly.
I would say.
Exactly.
But
you made it clear, you, Brian, all you guys. Brian.
I think that's what it's all about.
Definitely.
I mean, we've had that. I mean, that's a big part of this podcast itself is that it's partially welcoming everyone and the outside factors of it, not just doing the retail, not just buying cigars, not just buying whiskey and all that stuff. So
it's the whole culture we talked about.
Yeah, it's the community culture.
Exactly.
That's why Steve started the Bourbon and BS community page. So that way, the people that listen to the podcast, that follow the podcast, can sit there. They can post pictures of cigars they're smoking, what whiskey they're drinking, and it creates a lot of conversation because there are some people that are on there like, hey, I've never had this. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Whether it's a cigar or whiskey, and all of a sudden you'll get a bunch of people chiming in, be like, hey, I had this. This is what my thoughts were. It's worth the money, not worth the money. So it's great. It's a very when you're talking about the consumer, and I think the consumer side of this industry, it's very helpful because everyone's very willing to help everyone else out. Find something they like. I think sometimes when you get into the higher levels of the industry, that's where you get a little bit more ego sometimes.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Very territorial.
Yes.
Very territorial.
Yeah, I've gone through that through my different experiences in the industry as well. And
egos are going to shine their head through regardless of the level, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I think any of these, cigar, bourbon groups and stuff like that, one of the reasons that we started our own, and I like sharing to a lot of them because I like to kind of include what we're doing along with, there's a lot of very, very nice, welcoming cigar pages, a nice, welcoming bourbon ones. But you'll see the egos of certain members, sometimes vocal members, that'll come out and then they start kind of, and it's like, what makes your opinion right?
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I will say, that doesn't matter what level you are, how rich or poor you are, what your background is. If you've got a chip on your shoulder, if you have an ego, if it shines through regardless, in my opinion.
Very true.
So we are smoking tonight. Let's get into this. So I want to make a point here is that Q is, and Nate, correct me if I'm wrong, our first guest that does not actively drink alcohol.
No.
Is that right?
I am the first.
Yeah. We've had some of the others. Yeah. We've had some of the other side where we've had some people in the spirits industry. Barry Chandler's not much of a cigar smoker. He smoked maybe a couple inches of the cigar that we featured that night. What was the Christina
Basham? Yep,
from Middle West.
Yep,
she was not a cigar smoker at all, and that's fine. But yeah, this is the first time we've had someone who is a cigar smoker but not a drinker of any spirits at all.
So what do you have in your cup tonight, Q?
Coffee.
Good
choice.
Black coffee.
Is it from somewhere special?
St. Anne's Hospital.
St. Anne's. Do I want to know why you're at St. Anne's Hospital?
No, I'll talk about it. No, my father today had a procedure.
That's right.
Stay in the mic.
My father had a procedure this morning, where they basically put him to sleep. They stop the heart beating, and then they jump it so that he can get back into rhythm.
Yeah.
But thank God he's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cheers to your father. What's your father's name?
Jose.
Yeah.
He's actually watching this.
I love it. Well, cheers to you.
Cheers to Jose.
Speedy recovery for sure. We had an episode last week all about health. So we just recently hit on this subject. You should listen to it.
It's bad health, maybe.
Well, health struggles. Let's call it that.
There we go.
Health struggles.
This is a guy that retired command sergeant. He was a master sergeant, but he was an acting command sergeant major at DFCC.
Okay.
Gung-ho, hardcore. Been working since he was 8 doing construction. 17, joined the Army, did 20 years. Started a construction company and has been doing it ever since on a bunch of properties, but just taking a toll. It just hit him hard. He's got respiratory issues. I think it's called CPOD.
COPD.
COPD. He's got arthritis, and now he's got blood pressure and the heart. He's done. I was unaware of this, but he filed Monday for early retirement. He's done.
Wow.
So.
Disability?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's powerful stuff. That's amazing. So, good coffee?
Yes. Great. It's actually good. It's
Sentimentally good coffee?
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, it was funny because he was like, what do you know? I was like, I'm going to go get some coffee. He's like, bring me back a cup. I'm like, are you allowed to have it?
No.
He was like, do I care? I'm like, no. I'm like, all right.
I don't know. Blood pressure and heart issues. Caffeine may not be. Did you get him decaf?
I tried, but he could smell it a mile away.
Oh, man.
Smell the caffeine.
Interesting. Remember I was talking to you about it was in my blood, the tobacco industry?
Yeah.
I just found out more about my great-grandfather and grandmother today.
Let's hear it. We might as well get into that.
All right, so my great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather and grandfather had a tobacco farm, and they also had a small patch of, they used to grow coffee.
Is it Puerto Rico?
In Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So my dad recently was looking at properties. I said, what are you going to do out there? It's like, coffee. I was like, are you serious? He goes, yep, I'm going to grow coffee.
Is he looking at going back to Puerto Rico?
No, he's going to go back.
Oh, okay, so he is going to.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're sitting there talking about that because a couple of years ago, when I came back from Cuba, he was telling me about how they used to pick tobacco. So my great-grandmother would roll it so my grandmother could take it to the local like fresh market and trade it for goods so that they would have food for dinner.
Wow.
But he was telling me that they used to actually, it was a little bit more detail. He got into the specifics of it, but he was talking about the coffee. The coffee aspect,
so that's
when
what he
they
wants to
boil
do.
it and the way they would stir it and cook
Yeah.
it.
Wow.
So he wants to go back to doing that. Just be alone out there in the mountains.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's going to be drinking coffee.
Coffee.
So
With
what
all
you're,
the health conditions.
yeah. So what you're saying is he's retiring, but not really.
Yeah. It's in our blood. We don't know how to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I get.
Yeah, we'll get into
we-
that on you in the second part for sure, on
Okay.
different stuff you've done
Definitely.
along with the different stuff you're doing. Like, it's just constantly, you always got your
Yeah, I
hands and
can't,
stuff.
I can't stop moving.
And I love that. So, Nate, I want to change gears, actually. Let's do the whiskey first because I'm already sipping on it. This is my first drink of the night. Not that I need a drink, but definitely it's cold here in Columbus, Ohio. So let's do this, if you don't mind, Q, first.
please,
We'll
go
do
ahead.
this. So we only have, and we're gracious. It's about half a bottle. Rick Wayman, who is a supporter of the podcast, so we appreciate it, Rick, for donating this. He did get this in Tennessee, I believe.
Yep.
It's the only place you can get it.
Yep.
And Nate, you looked it up. I'm not going to read the back of this, but it is called Peg Leg Porker. This one is something where on the label you've got a pig, rather large pig, and it has a fake fourth leg.
Yep. The left hind leg.
Left hind leg. It is 45%, so 90 proof. Nate, what did you learn about this one here?
So Peg Leg Porker bourbon actually came out of a barbecue joint in Nashville, Tennessee called Peg Leg Porker. The founder and owner of that company, Kerry Bringle, he's the first U.S. pit master to ever start a bourbon brand. And with his restaurant and everything, they actually were sponsored by Jim Beam. This is not a Jim Beam product. We'll get into that in a little bit later.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah. So he started this, and they released the 8-year in 2015, and it won gold medal in San Francisco. And then they released the 12-year 2 years later in 2017. It won double gold medal in San Francisco.
What category do we know, or just?
I'm guessing American whiskey or maybe Tennessee whiskey.
I mean, I feel like we would have heard of this. You know what I mean? With all these medals, that's amazing.
Well, but the thing to keep in mind is it's not available in Ohio. So those of us here in Ohio, that's why we've probably never heard of it before, because we can't get it here in Ohio. This one does not have the age statement on it, so it's not the 8 or 12 year. Peg Leg Porker actually commented on my Instagram photo, so I reached back out to them and try to see if they can tell us what age it is. They haven't said anything back yet, so we'll see if they let us know.
No, we appreciate the support, though, if they check us out.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
for this one, they do about 6,000 bottles a year. That's it.
So it is a smaller batch, even though it does not say small batch on there.
Yep. And then for the 12-year, they do 136 cases, and that's it.
Wow.
So they do 1,000 cases for the 8-year. They do 136 for the 12-year, and those are all allocated every single year. So Kerry Bringle, like I said, he's a barbecue pit master. He's competed in the Super Bowl of Swine.
That sounds official.
It does.
A lot of sponsors I hear in the Super Bowl.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He's competed in that for more than 25 years, and he's taken second place 3 times. So he's never won it, but still second place. When you think about how many people are probably entering that contest, guy probably knows what he's doing when it comes to pork and barbecue.
In 20 years?
In just over 25 years.
Oh, 25.
Yeah, he's been doing it for over 25 years. And so part of the story behind the name is when he was 17 years old, he was diagnosed with a form of bone cancer. And after about 8 months of treatments, they amputated one of his legs. So,
hence the logo.
Hence the logo. Why there's
wow.
Why one of the legs on the pig is a kind of a wood peg leg, like what you would expect from an old pirate film or something like that. Yeah, but obviously it didn't stop the guy because the guy then started a barbecue restaurant, then started a bourbon brand.
Yeah.
Steve, if you had to guess, so this is a sourced whiskey.
MGP.
No. Remember, it's Tennessee. It's Tennessee.
I know, but that's just the one we go with. Indiana, Q, if you're not familiar, MGP puts out some of the best source whiskeys that other people will bottle then. Okay, so that's why I said MGP.
Oh, okay.
Tennessee.
Yep. There's a few of them in Tennessee. So this is one of those that Jake would always say that he can taste it, he knows who it is.
Jack Daniels.
No, other one.
Jim Beam.
That's not in Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee.
Tennessee makers?
Nope. Come on. Anyone in the studio audience?
They're all on their phones.
Yeah. God damn it.
The kids of today.
They're trying.
Always on their smartphones.
So if we would have guessed it right, what would we have said, Nate?
George Dickel.
George Dickel.
This is being sourced out of Dickel. Yep.
Oh.
And
yeah, it is good stuff.
I've heard that name before.
Yep. It actually goes through a mellowing or a filtering process. It goes through hickory charcoal. That's
which is fitting, right? For being the whole barbecue thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Tennessee.
So you do get a nice little smoke, but you get a lot of hickory notes. It's hickory is for anyone who's had different types of smoked any type of meats. Hickory and cedar and mesquite, they all have different flavor characteristics.
Sure. Yeah, when you're smoking.
So the fact that this is being filtered through hickory charcoal, it has a very different taste to it than some of the ones that we've tasted before, where we get a lot of oak notes just from it being aged in an oak barrel. This is still aged in a new American oak barrel.
Yeah.
But because of that hickory charcoal filtering that they do, that's what gives it a different wood flavor than some of our traditional bourbons that we've had.
Interesting. It does. I mean, what do you think about the flavor? I know, Q, you're not really chiming in on this part of it. But, Nate, what do you get of it? Have you had many sips of it yet?
I've had a few because I wanted to start a little bit before you, so that way I could try and, I think it's got a very, I think it's very bright. It's got kind of a thin but yet oily texture to it on the palate. It does. It's not a very thick, the kind of whiskey that you almost chew.
No.
It's got a lighter color to it, but it still has great viscosity in the glass and on your palate. It just doesn't last. It's a very short finish, I think. It just has this kind of bright, kind of minty flavor to it.
Minty.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, like a mint vanilla. And then a lot of that hickory note to it. I don't really get many fruit notes with this.
No.
So it's very enjoyable. At 90 proof, it drinks very smooth. It's got a smooth, short, crisp finish to it, I believe.
See, and I was going to say something about for 90, it kind of has a little bit of heat, but I think that's the mint that you're getting. There's like that, like kind of like a floral mint to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you kind of get that confused, like the mint sensation. It's kind of like it's not spice, it's not anything where it's going to have a lot of heat or burn, but it kind of gives that sensation on the tongue because I didn't. When you said mint at first, I'm like, I don't know about mint, but definitely has that.
Yeah, almost like a mint throat lozenge or something like that, where you just get it kind of in the back.
Yeah.
It just stays in the back. It doesn't go down into your chest, the warmth at all.
No.
It just stays right in the back of your throat.
So this is good for this type of the time of the year. You know what I mean? When everyone's getting sick.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah, if you're sick, drink whiskey.
It's medicinal. No, I think it's
not
good.
Anymore, but
yeah, it is.
Depends
What's
on
Brad
what.
Paisley. Yeah, it's
Depends
like,
on what ails you, Steve.
Yeah, it's medicine, and then it's also it can make you sick. But yeah, it does say on the label, and it's very basic. This is like your classic kind of wine bottle style of a whiskey bottle. They kept it very, very simple. You've got the logo up front, and on the back it does go into a little bit what you were talking about with the unique hickory charcoal filtering process, giving it its signature peg leg porker taste, and talks about him losing his leg to bone cancer and has built the peg leg porker brand to show his zest for life, sense of humor, and love of great food and spirits. So that's neat. I mean, it sounds like this is one hell of a dude. Bottled at Speakeasy Spirits in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know. I think this is cool. Do we have any idea what the price of this is?
I couldn't find anything that was an exact price. You know how sometimes if you look at a review site, like they judge the price on how many dollar signs or how many stars or something like that. So out of $4 signs, this was a 2. Now I'm guessing that means this is probably somewhere around a $50 bottle.
I was going to say, based on what I'm seeing on the shelves here in Ohio, it probably would come in around $40, $50.
Yeah,
that seems to be the everyday type of more of a boutique whiskey.
Yeah, we need to, next time we see Rick in the shop, we should probably ask him.
Yeah, I'll ask him
what he paid for it, and obviously, I don't know if it was him or someone else, but obviously someone enjoyed it because when he gave it to us, it was half a bottle.
Yeah. If you're donating an already open bottle to a podcast, it's either you didn't enjoy it and you're like, here, I got to find a good use for this, and I don't want to have my guests at my house drink this. Or, halfway through, it's kind of like, no, let me share this. And that was very, very nice of Rick. So we do appreciate that. That's fantastic. I would say overall, I do like this. This is pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. It's very enjoyable. At $40, I think it would be a good bottle to try. At 50 bottles, I mean, compared to some of the other
$50.
Or $50 a bottle.
50 bottles, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Hey,
long weekend.
Or a good night, depends on the party you're throwing. At $50 a bottle, it's
pushing it.
I think that'd be about the top of what I might pay for it, because I have a couple other bottles in my liquor cabinet that are around that $50 mark. But this is enjoyable. So, knowing that I've had it and it's enjoyable, if it was something that was available here in Ohio and readily available, which, them only doing about 6,000 bottles a year, it's not going to be that readily available probably.
No.
And that's just because of the state of Ohio's liquor control laws. I mean, they can only, when they bring in stuff, they want to bring in stuff that they can, keep on the shelves or is going to be readily available if they can, minus the stuff that you always see people nowadays, bourbon hunting for and waiting in line for 2 hours on a Saturday morning to try and get.
So, here's one for you here. And Q, sorry to kind of do the bourbon thing first, you know what I mean, since you're not as knowledgeable, but hopefully everyone's kind of getting something out of this. So tonight I stopped by Kroger State Liquor Department, and here in Ohio, so Henry McKenna is still all the rage from my understanding.
Did you find a bottled in bond?
I found 3, but it was $50 a bottle now.
It is. It used to be $32, $31, $32.
$32. It was awesome. And tonight that's what I'm thinking as you're talking about all this stuff. And so that's why I have like a quarter of a bottle of the Four Roses small batch. in the kitchen, but I was going to just get a bottle to have here to kind of drink, on the side. And I'm walking through the shelves, and on the end cap, there's Henry McKenna, $49.99. It's empty. And then I'm just kind of scanning down the aisle, and then there's just 3 bottles in another spot with the price tag on it, and it's $49.99, and there's 3, maybe 4, but I think there's 3 bottles back there. And in the past, it was like at 32, 33, whatever.
Oh, you bought it every time you saw it.
Just grab it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And tonight was the first time, and I don't know what people that are out there that are into the bourbons and into the the names and the awards and everything else, but I was surprised to see it on there. One, that's my big thing, is that if people were out there, how has this not spread through the Columbus area that there's Henry McKenna? Or did they have more of like my thought process where it's like, at $30-some a bottle, this was one that I would pick up every time. But I'm looking at it as like, as a side bottle, I like Henry McKenna. I think it's very good. Mm-hmm. But part of it was kind of like the Weller Antique. I've got just about
exactly what I was going to bring up.
Half bottle of Weller Antique, 107 right now. And it's like, now if I see that at $49.99, I probably like Weller Antique a little bit more than I liked Henry McKenna.
Really?
Just off of my recollection.
Wow.
I think I've had more of Weller.
I thought you were more of a Henry McKenna guy.
I like Henry McKenna, but again, I think at $50 a bottle, it opens it up.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's where it's like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I can pay $30 for a 4 Roses small batch, and I know I like that every time. Or I can, get Henry McKenna for $50, and then that might be gone in a night, and it wasn't worth the extra $20.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
So let's say you had Antique 107.
Yeah.
Henry McKenna Bottled and Bond, and Peg Leg Porker. All 3 right next to each other, same price tag.
Shit. Right now, today, I'd probably go with the Weller.
Okay.
I'd go with the Weller.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, you had given me one for my birthday, the Antique, and I had another one, so I finally cracked the last screw top.
Yeah.
And
when I bought that bottle for your birthday, that's when it had just gone up to 40.
Right. So it was the first bump. So again, I mean, it's so funny when you look at this. It's all relative to the market when you're looking at the bourbons. Just like cigars, is when it bumps up in price, you think, okay, so I've got a $30 bottle of whiskey. Now, if that went to 40, all right, it's not that big of a deal. It's opening itself up, kind of like with cigars. It's an $8 cigar. Now it's $10, $2. It's not really that big of a difference. Goes to $12, $4 in the end game is not that big of a steep increase. But when you start comparing it now, you're introducing that whiskey, that part of the charm, part of the miraculous thing about buying it was the fact that it's so good at a lower price point. So now when you put the price point on it, it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to spend the extra $20 when I could get almost 2 bottles of this, 4 months ago, when I could find it, and now I got to spend twice as much just to have 1 bottle. I'm starting to get to the point that I think there's a chance that unless the entire market goes up, which it probably will, you're going to start losing some people. And that's why I think Henry McKenna Bottle and Bond was sitting on the shelf at whatever time, 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, when they probably put it out in the morning, where in the past, about a month ago, unless they probably had to have gotten 2 or 3 cases of it, but it would have been gone.
Yeah.
Unless they had other things, and they're grouping that into the, no, you can only pick 1 out of these 8 that came in.
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace products, Henry McKenna, whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, we've seen that happen a lot here in Ohio, just with the bourbon boom that we're in.
Bourbon.
Sorry about that one. That was a Freudian slip there. No, just with the boom that we're experiencing in Ohio, a lot of the stuff that we really enjoyed 2 years ago, like all of a sudden it's becoming harder to get, and it's gone up in price, and it's like, well, shoot, let me go try some other stuff that may be, a little bit cheaper than that. That Wilderness Trail that I picked up,
That's going to be one that we're going to have to do on the podcast as well.
So do I need to stop drinking my bottle?
No, I see that every day now.
Okay.
I see it every day. It's openly available right now.
Yeah,
at least in Ohio.
I think because that's a $47-$48 bottle, so probably about the same as
you're right there. Yeah, $50.
What this is, and having tried both, I know which way I'm going to go.
Which
the
other one,
Wilderness.
Trail. That's good.
Just because it's got so, I mean, it's a bottled in bond, but it's got so much more flavor and depth to it. But still, not saying anything negative whatsoever about the Peg Leg Porker. It's a great whiskey. I think at that, like what you said, at that price point, what else can I get for it?
Yeah, and we're assuming that it's around that $50 mark.
Yeah, because it's not available here in Ohio.
I like the story behind it. I like what they're doing with it. I like the simplicity. I like all of that. So, again, not knowing the price, I think it's something that this is a good one. I just wanted to introduce that Henry McKenna part of the argument because I think the price thing is again getting out of hand. It's the whole secondary market is rising, and I don't think people realized when they're doing all the secondary stuff. I think that is what is increasing the price of whiskeys, bourbons in particular, because you think about it.
They screwed the rest of us.
Well, Rouvain was talking about this shop in a different state, and it was interesting because he was saying that when he and his mom, it was in their home state, and when they went into this store, they had Blanton's.
Yeah.
And so he went in, and he's like, all right, I'd like to get a bottle of Blanton's, and my mom would like to get a bottle of Blanton's. And the clerk was like, no, only one of you guys can get it since you guys came in together. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, he's like, well, I actually save, that for my good customers. And so Rouvain is sitting there, and he's like, my mom and dad have been shopping at this grocery store for 40 years. So your bourbon guy that spends whatever he's spending in the last couple years or whatever with this craze doesn't stack up to what my parents have spent at your store for 40 years. So anyways, Rouvain took it personally. He went out to the general manager and everything like that. And I guess the general manager comes out, and he's like, oh, I understand. And he Rouvain gave the same story there. And then the guy, he's like, I don't want to talk to the clerk again. So the guy gets the bottle, goes to ring him out, and he's like, I'm going to charge you $82 for it. And he's like, well, why so much? And he's like, well, because we can get it.
Yeah.
Because, and I can see both sides of it. I can see that the stores are looking at it as like, well, if you're not state mandated, I'm going to sell you a bottle for $55, $60, and then 6 out of 10 people are just going to turn around and post it somewhere or sell it to a buddy for 50% or 100% more. It's like, no, fuck that. This is capitalism at that point. If you're not going to be mandated by the state, no, I know people are selling it for $120, so how about I sell it to you for $90, and then if you do make a little bit of money off it, at least I'm not losing more money off of it.
Yeah, I see that.
I mean, it's that's what's happening with all this, is that you have these people that are making their nut on the side or whatever, and it's like, good for you. That's fantastic. If you can sell, if something's collectible, you can sell it to anyone all day long. You know what I mean? You were talking about Q before the podcast. You found like these old stuffed animals that were part of the cigar industry, and it's like, I made the comment that you hold on to it for 10, 20 years. Like someone might pay a bunch on eBay. Mm-hmm. Is it wrong for you to sell it at that? No, absolutely not. You can sell it for whatever you want, but I don't blame the retailers in states that aren't state mandated that they are raising their prices. It just sucks for us that we're taking advantage of the lower prices so that we could drink it as opposed to resell it.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Q, what do you think about all this? I mean, because you're
okay. I'm still kind of thrown off on the whole. So his parents been going to the same store for how long?
Yeah.
For how long they been going to that store?
They said like 40 years. But the clerk at the liquor department didn't obviously know them because she doesn't come in buying liquor when he's not in town type thing.
I don't know, man. The whole repeated customer.
Yeah.
That's how you lose a customer.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean,
to
and
me,
I don't know how.
I'm still stuck on that aspect of it.
It's just a frame of reference as far as that goes, is that person that's behind the liquor store, he's trying to take care of his people because it's a network, and who knows what they're coming in and possibly, handing off to him like as gifts for taking care of them. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't fault any of these people that are involved. Yeah. You know what I mean? But to make that comment that I save it to my good customers.
Yeah, what's a good customer?
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm not going to be a good customer now because you just pissed me off and you screwed me over.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Sorry, I'm not waiting at your door at 7:30 every day that you open up your liquor department to see what you have.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know. That's the side story, but kind of a rant.
That was good.
Yeah. The whole thing's getting to me.
Getting
old. Getting to be an old crotchety man.
Well, to distract you from the rant of the whiskey, do you want to run into the cigar then?
Sure.
Okay. Whatever makes you happy, Steve.
So La Aurora. This is a company that is from the Dominican Republic. And you look at the history of this, and on the band, so this is the 115th anniversary. Now, this is a regular production cigar. They did a 115th anniversary cigar that was very unique, and it was limited.
I was going to say it was a limited run.
It was a limited run. So then they came back out, did this. It's a different blend. This is an Ecuadorian. I'm going to try to rattle this off, and I'll verify it afterwards. Ecuadorian wrapper, and then you've got, and I don't know the seed. It kind of looks like an Ecuadorian Habano to me.
Yeah, I could kind of taste that.
Yeah, so Ecuadorian Habano, and then you got a Brazilian binder, and then Brazil, Dominican, and Nicaragua. They are all represented in the filler. I got to look at that.
Yeah, I think you're probably right with the Habano. It just doesn't have the same flavor as what an Ecuadorian Sumatra would on my palate.
No,
it's got a little bit of spice to it.
Yeah, it does, and it doesn't have kind of that reddish hue that you typically get with a Sumatra.
No.
Yep. You can taste the sweetness.
There's a little sweetness.
Just a little bit. Very aromatic.
It is.
But not in a bad way, like real.
When you just read the blend, though, you know what I mean? Ecuador, you got the Brazilian wrapper and some Brazilian tobacco in the filler. I mean, I think there's a little bit of uniqueness to what they did here, and I can appreciate that. This company did start in 1903. I mean, this is, from what I understand, one of, if not the oldest, according to what they say, it's the oldest cigar company in Dominican Republic that's still standing continuously. So 1903, it was founded by Eduardo Leon Jimenez, and then you go through a couple things, like they moved the factory to Santiago. You've gone through some things. I found some highlights of this history. Is that so? You see a lion on there, and that's from the Leon name. So that's where they came up with kind of the lion with the Leon in there. Mm-hmm. You go through this, and it's just really interesting about how it did pass down through the generations of this family, and you start going into the 50s and 60s. It was interesting that, like in the 60s, by the late 60s, they actually made a contract and worked with Philip Morris to do cigarettes in the Dominican Republic. So that was a big, I assume, kind of a big surge to their pocketbook.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they made a ton of money with that deal.
You go to the 80s, and they're getting the beer industry. Presidente, you got Bohemia, you got that in this mix here. So I'm just kind of highlighting some of this stuff. And then it was interesting to me. Go to the 2000s. So in 2001, in 2001, the size of this company in the Dominican Republic, right? So their duty, the taxes paid, the duty income to the Dominican government was over 9.5% of the total national income.
Holy shit!
9.5%, and then next year it was 9.59. So you figure this is the size at that point of this company in a country that obviously is not the most wealthy country, but when you think about the Dominican Republic, when you have that's very tobacco rich as far as the company.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
There's a ton of big
and I don't know
name.
what that stacks up against Fuente or any of these other companies down there, but to be almost 10% of the national income coming from one company, that's huge to me, in my opinion.
Well, I think also when you talk about that, it also shows just how important the cigar industry is to those countries, to the Dominican Republic, to Nicaragua, to Honduras. Like, this is a major cash crop for them because they make so when you go to your local brick and mortar stores and you buy a cigar and you complain that the cigar is $10-11, you got to remember like how much that actually contributes to the people in that country where this cigar came from.
I think there's 300 hands that actually touch the cigar before it's on your
shelf.
shelf.
There's hundreds, absolutely.
I think it's 300, 350.
Between the people that are putting the seeds in the soil and then moving those pods into the ground and then priming and trimming and taking all the leaves down, hanging the leaves, the fermentation, the deveining, the roll, all that stuff. There's literally hundreds of people.
The labels, the packages, the boxes.
Oh, absolutely.
The shipping.
Oh, it's very dramatic.
Everything.
So when you say La Aurora, because most people, if you sit there and ask them, hey, give me your top 2, top 3 Dominican names, they're probably going to think they're going to think Monte Cristo, Romeo, Fuente, and Davidoff. Like those companies are who they're probably thinking of more than anyone else. But then you sit there and say La Aurora, less than 20 years ago was almost 10% of their national income. Think about what the rest of them are too. Like, holy cow!
Yeah.
That goes to show you just how important this industry is to the people in that country.
I can see, again, I've said this before. It's interesting because with tobacco, especially in these countries, it's almost like a legal drug cartel. I mean, the relationship between the tobacco growers and the manufacturers and everything like this is wide open, and it's typically going to be in areas that they're growing other things that aren't legal. That behind the scenes, I think there's a lot of the similar income coming in, but it's not necessarily going to be documented per se. But I think with this, it just shows that this company's been around so long, and then around 2017 they signed another deal. They revamped the deal with Philip Morris, so they're doing that I think currently again in the Dominican Republic. So it's a very healthy brand, a lot of history. It's family run. It's just interesting. So when you see this, it's funny because this cigar, it hasn't sold. Do you guys sell this at your store?
No, we just ordered it today.
You just ordered it today?
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't sold all that well for us, but we've tried La Aurora products before. The only ones that really sell well in our shop, for whatever reason, every shop's different, but in our shop is going to be the whole thing where it's the preferitos, the tubes, the real high end. Have you seen those?
$22.95.
Yeah, we used to sell almost a lot of La
The
Aurora.
rubies, the emeralds, all that.
Yeah.
Double barrel.
Yeah.
What is it? The 105, 107?
107 series.
The 107
came out, yeah.
did very, very well for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good smoke. Good smoke.
But
They make a
Tatiana's still killing it.
Tatiana. We'll have to do next time you're on. We're going to do a Tatiana Groovy
Okay.
Blue podcast. Well, Jesus.
I think I'd rather smoke an acid.
Well, same ballpark.
Yeah.
But with the 115 though, and I want to get your guys' take on this cigar. I will say for what it is with the history there, it's almost as if when you put it on like our shelves where we have just the trays, it kind of falls in. Like 115 for the occasional or the everyday kind of cigar smoker that's not really into the history, not really into the brand names, doesn't really know all of it. You just look at it and you're like, yeah, aren't all tobacco companies that old? You know what I mean? Like, aren't they all 115 what? Like 115 years? That's it? It's like there's no frame of reference there, I don't think. That when you see 115, it's almost like, yes, that's very bold on here. And you look at the side, 1903 to 2018. I almost think that you pass over this cigar because you just see like, oh, La Aurora 115, cool, that looks nice. But it's around, $10, give or take, $11. How good can it really be?
It's actually really good.
I think it's really good.
It's really good.
I think it's a good, not necessarily the best bang for buck cigar because I think this is the Toro, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's 5 3/4 by 54.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that on the shelf. I think at 1050, and at 1050 for a cigar that size, like this is a really good pick.
Yeah,
this is a really good cigar to take advantage of because it smokes well. I'd classify it as a medium body. Steve?
Yeah, it's a good.
I'd say medium.
Yeah, it's a good medium.
But it's smooth. It's got a great flavor to it. I don't get any bitterness. I don't get much spice, if any. If there is, it's probably just a little bit. From that Nicaragua. But with the Dominican and the Brazilian that's in there, and then that Ecuadorian wrapper on it, it just smooths everything out. It's a great blend. It's a lot of different tobaccos coming together to make a very nice, enjoyable product.
What I'll say about it, though, is that it's unique. And with that being with the Brazilian wrapper, with the Brazilian binder, and then throwing that in there in the wrapper as well, I can also see where we've got some people at the shop that have tried it, and they're like, it's not really for me. So it's a good. It seems like a good cigar, but it's not really my flavor.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it is unique. Mm-hmm. This is not your normal combination. I can't think of a cigar off the top of my head that's going to have that, at least from the treetop level. When you just look at like wrapper, binder, filler, I don't recall many that have that exact lineup there.
I think when you're talking about La Aurora, because of the popularity of the Preferidos, because of the popularity of the Leon Jimenez series, the 107, because of the popularity of those, you're talking about this being overlooked. I think this is one where they really need the retailer to recommend this cigar to people.
Yeah,
this isn't a cigar that's going to jump out to people if they're just walking by and see it on the shelves. Like, this is something that they're relying on the knowledge and expertise of the people that working in that retail establishment to let the consumer know just how good of a cigar this is.
I agree with you, except this is one that if a customer walks in and he's like, hey, I need a medium cigar, I could honestly recommend this and they'll enjoy it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because nothing's overwhelming.
I think so.
It's all well balanced.
Yeah.
It is.
Did you try Retro Hale in it?
Every time.
It's really good.
I can't not Retro Hale.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah. I think it's good. It's interesting because for me, it's in our shop at least, I think I'm the only one that really likes it.
I do.
Well,
all
right, there's
so
two people.
when we first brought it in, we didn't put it on the shelf immediately. I mean, we had the boxes because we're limited by how many cigars we can put on the wall. Yeah, we use bins, and there's about 430 bins that we can use, but there's every single one of those bins is full of something. So we got to clear something out every time we bring something new in. We got to clear open a space. And
no, that's true.
This was a cigar that we were still selling to people after we first got it in, even though it wasn't on the shelf. But that's because typically when we get a cigar in, like, that's what we want to smoke. We want to try that out a couple times.
Sure.
And then see where that falls in the profile of everything else that we carry. So that way when a customer comes in and they're looking for something, this is a cigar that we can recommend to them.
Yeah.
But it even helps us when we actually do put it on the shelf, because then we see it and we remember, oh, yeah, this is a cigar that you might enjoy if this is what you're looking for. But I don't know of any... I don't know of anyone that works in the shop that doesn't like this cigar that smoked it.
No, like is a different term. I guess one that they go back to it. It's not, so we brought this La Aurora in, the 115, with a couple other ones. Carl Malone from La Aurora, which is an interesting story on a side note, but we'll get into that maybe some other podcast.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah.
I was hesitant. I was like, Carl Malone, he's a good baller, but
Cameroon.
Yeah, there's Cameroon.
That's why I like it.
No, it's really good.
Not everyone's Cameroon.
And the price point's great.
Yeah. I'm one of the few.
All of their products, price point's great.
Yeah.
All of it.
Did you guys pick up
stuff?
Yeah. Did you pick up the special selection, Nest Miranda?
The
special
new one
selection?
that just came out, or the previous?
I think it's a rebrand.
Yeah, newer one. The special or selection especial, whatever.
It says special selection.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, it's.
No, I didn't pick it back up. It kind of died in our shop.
And see, that one is the one that some of our regulars like more. But I think that's more of a common type of a blend.
Yeah.
So it's.
You got to have a clean palate when you smoke this.
Definitely.
You're going to miss out.
Definitely. And I think with the peg leg porker, it kind of gives me a little bit of a drier aftertaste.
Yeah.
Which can turn some people off.
I like what he says right there.
Avi says it has a very sweet and nutty retro Hale, and I can get that too.
And a little bit of hay, like grass on the retro.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I can see where you're getting that from. Yeah.
I know there's a little bit of Nicaraguan tobacco in here, but I don't see a lot of Nicaraguan fans enjoying this cigar as much.
I don't think it's
too light.
Yeah.
It's light. It's
it doesn't have enough spice.
When you start talking about like the grassy, the hay, and all that stuff, you say that to someone that likes to smoke a fuller body Nicaraguan cigar. Yeah, they're gonna be like, nah, pass. Yeah. I'm pass. So how does it pair with the coffee? I gotta know. I gotta bring you into this with the whole part of this.
Actually, it's pairing really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. Because the coffee right now has got my sinuses wide open.
That's good. It's from St. Anne's, the hospital, so it's probably medicinal. I'd imagine.
So we got medicinal coffee. We got medicinal whiskey.
All whiskey is medicinal.
Are the cigars medicinal too?
I think so.
Like I said, it depends on what ails you, right?
You're sharing the coffee now?
No, he's going to heat up. It started off hot. Now it's cold, like super cold.
All right, so it's a little cold in the garage. It's about 47.
Oh, that's not bad.
47.
Thank you.
It's outside. It's probably
Yeah.
at least 20 degrees colder outside. So
At least.
yeah.
Make sure you take all the metal out of the microwave when you put that in there, will you? All right, perfect. Yeah.
They spent some money on this label. The gold double stamp.
The gold's nice. That's why I like Q, you being on here. You talk to us about this band. You're a stickler for detail.
I am. I'm looking at it. First of all, I'm going blind. But
You're getting old.
I like how they had the old.
Turn up his microphone, will you, a little bit?
Yep, I like how they had the outline of a building, but I think that was in one of the pictures on the website.
Yeah, so this is, I think, their factory.
Okay. No, I really do like that. It's attention to detail, but still simple.
Got that old school car.
Yeah.
So it's coming from one of those
Red,
pictures
black,
for sure.
gold, and red. Real simple.
It's classic.
Yeah, and that band's got a nice gold embossment on it.
Yeah,
It's a raised. It's a very textured band. It's not flat. Yeah, and, it just pops when it's sitting on a shelf, I think.
But it's not a Gurkha.
Wait. All right, what do you mean by that?
Come on now.
No, go after
No,
it,
go.
because I
All
was
right,
going to
can
grab
I-
a Gurkha.
can
You were
I-
smoking a Gurkha.
He was smoking one of
earlier.
the new ones.
Yeah.
It's actually good. I've had it.
Yeah, I was.
No, nothing against Gurkha. It's
That's
just that,
absolutely against Gurkha.
okay. This is
Exactly what you
This
said.
is the issue that I have with
Because
Gurkha.
that's how I took it.
This is the issue I have with Gurkha. I've always felt like beautiful boxes, humidors, presentation, labels, but it's hard to tell the difference between the
Yeah.
profile taste. It was kind of hard for me to tell the difference between the profile taste.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people agree with me, and even the actual rep, that was the first thing he said. We're known for, he said, we're famous and we're known for selling beautiful boxes, and we stuck them with cigars.
Yeah, I remember
But-
hearing that too.
But now, like with the new release that you're smoking, they're actually starting to focus more, instead of mass producing, more about
Well, I think
standing out.
I think what that goes to, and this is something that who was it that we did the Gurkha event with last fall, Steve?
So we had Christina, and then we also had Juan Lopez.
Yeah. So one of the things that Juan had said was, for a while, Gurkha would actually sell the naming rights of a cigar to someone
Online.
So you had a lot of people that were sitting there saying, "Yeah, I smoked this Gurkha. It wasn't very good." But the problem was Gurkha wasn't making the cigar.
Yes, correct.
Someone else was making a cigar and paying to put Gurkha's name on the cigar. So people, if it was a bad cigar, people attributed that to the Gurkha name. So when you go into a store,
Which they should.
yeah,
Which they should.
yeah. But then when you go into a brick and mortar store and they have different cigars from Gurkha than what you see online, they're very, very hesitant to try them unless there's someone who actually does like Gurkha a lot. They're very hesitant to try it. It's like, no. Like, Gurkha didn't make that cigar. Yes, it's got their name on it, but they didn't make that cigar that you bought on that website. They didn't make that cigar.
There's other companies that do that.
There are a lot of companies, but I'm saying that's not so to the consumer, though, and from a brand recognition standpoint, that's all that matters. Like, that's okay. You're making your money or whatever you're doing, by doing that, and they're selling it online. They're selling it by the lot, whatever. But you put your name on it. That's up to you as a brand to be responsible for what your name's going
The
on.
quality.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
Well, it doesn't matter.
That's
Yeah, no, you're
why there's
absolutely right.
a negative sometimes with Gurkha, and this is multiple ones. I don't want anyone out there from Gurkha, like Gurkha, don't like Gurkha, whatever. I mean, this is just honest conversation. But I think there's a part of it when you talk to Juan, at least, that there's two sides of their industry. Is one that includes what you're talking about, Nate. There's also a part of it that you've got their own ones that they're doing at a lower. They're utilizing some tobacco, and they're putting out products at a lower price point. The ones that you find in the sampler sets online, where you get 10 cigars for $20, and then you're upset that only 2 out of the 10 are good cigars, and you're like, they're $2 per cigar. Like, what are you expecting? Like, does it sound too good to be true? Yes, it probably is. So Gurkha will throw in some and there's
Great
a couple, like
knives,
AJ will put it in. Huh?
T-shirt. You go online if you order
Yeah, you get
Gurkha.
swag.
Historically, you get like swag.
They've got cool swag.
Yeah, they do. But my point is,
You
Gurkha. Going back to my point,
You specifically said this is not a Gurkha.
meaning
You
they don't
brought
have
back
a
to say-
flashy label, a flashy
Right.
box. It's real simple, really elegant, nice, and it's a good quality cigar.
they
Remember we
flashed
talked.
this one
Remember
up a
we
little
talked
bit.
about that in the industry when you first start to smoke cigars.
Yeah.
You don't know any better. You walk into a shop, and I think we talked about this also. I vowed to never try to push a high-end product on a cigar.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I spent $20, $30, $15, $18 on a recommendation or because it's the brand, and then I smoked it. I'm like, dude, like I just wasted my money.
You're a trusting individual.
Well, initially,
Not anymore.
I used to work for a cigar shop in the Short North,
Yeah.
and there was a kid that used to work with us, and he would push Davidoffs, Avo, Zeno, which is nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But if a person doesn't have a developed palate for it, they're going to be upset.
Well, again, there's two sides to that, right? So if I sell you, I've heard more often the individuals that don't have the history of smoking many cigars, so they're smoking an $18 or $20 like they're smoking a Davidoff, they're smoking a Zeno, they're smoking a higher end cigar. They're not disappointed until they start smoking an $8 cigar that they
Exactly.
actually like as much or more,
Exactly.
or they're like, well, this isn't like half as good as a $20 cigar that I bought for $10. That's when the upset feelings come in. That you're like, man, I've been wasting money
Exactly.
on these cigars. Now they're not bad cigars necessarily, but it's just you don't know what's out there, and that's we go back to it. I think we were talking about it last week. Is that just smoke them all. Like when we were talking to that, like I was talking to the guy Ryan Jones, which we have an update on that as well for the second part. But when I was talking to Ryan Jones and all that stuff, and he's like, well, I'm a little embarrassed because I don't really know what I like. I don't really know mild, medium, or full body. And that's when I just said, smoke them all. Like just literally price range, everything, whatever's in your budget. Don't go broke trying to drink whiskey or smoke cigars. But, open yourself up to multiple things, including along the same brand.
Yes,
So
definitely.
I understand if you smoke 4 cigars from a brand like Gurkha, La Aurora, Romeo Julieta, whatever it is, be a cigar company, and you smoke their line, you're like, I just really don't like what they're doing.
Yes.
You may not, so depending on the size, you may not really enjoy what the master blender is doing. You just may not like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. But don't smoke one Rocky Patel and say, well, I don't like Rockies.
So
I don't like Alec Bradley's.
No, that's true. Like I had a customer come in today, as a matter of fact. He's hooked now on the AJ Fernandez Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper. It's the San Latano.
San Lotano, yeah.
He is a Romeo and Julieta Reserva Churchill. That's his go-to.
Yeah.
Oh, I ran out.
So you recommended the other.
So I recommended it. 3 days in a row he's been coming in, and that's what he's been smoking. He was like, dude, I need to start experimenting, trying different cigars, because he found something that he liked, and he thought, okay, this is it.
So I had kind of a similar experience Saturday. Had a younger guy come in, and I was asking him what kind of cigars he liked, and he's like, well, I know what I don't like. I don't like anything from AJ Fernandez. I'm like, okay. So I start asking him other questions, find out cigars.
I've not heard that before.
I know.
About AJ.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me
not.
too. So I started asking him questions, find out what other cigars he likes, and he was more of a medium to full kind of guy, wanted something very rich, maybe a little bit of spice to it. So I sold him a cigar, and I let him smoke about half of that cigar, and then went up to him and was like, hey, what do you think about that cigar? Because anytime I recommend a cigar to someone and they're smoking it in the shop, I want to follow up and see if it's something that they actually do enjoy. Because that makes me feel good if I pick out a cigar or recommend a cigar to someone and they enjoy that cigar. That makes me feel like I did my job. So I asked him about the cigar.
It's very selfish of you.
Okay.
I guess I'm selfish.
No,
too.
I'm looking at no.
I love that film.
In a way,
Just kidding.
I love that
in
film.
I do too.
a way,
Everyone
I'm
likes
looking
that
out for the
film.
customer. But so I started asking him about the cigar. He loved the flavor. He loved the way it drew. He loved the amount of smoke he got on it. And I was like, well, do you have anything negative about the cigar? And he's like, no, there's nothing negative I can say about the cigar. I'm like, yeah, AJ Fernandez makes that cigar. His name's just not on the label.
That's what but then you do it out of spite almost at that point. You're trying to prove a
But
point.
no, it's
Now you take double enjoyment because you're like, yeah, take that.
He's stuffed in his face.
You can't unsmoke it.
But no, what I'm saying
Fucker.
is, I can't give you your money back. But no, what I'm saying is, like, just because you
It's
don't,
a valid point.
so like, just because you don't like us, some cigars that La Aurora makes, just because you don't like something Gurkha makes, just because you don't like something Alec Bradley, Rocky Patel, just because you don't like some, a handful of cigars that someone makes, doesn't mean you hate their cigars. Chances are they make something that will hit your palate the right way and that you will enjoy. So don't close your mind off to what those other companies are still making.
Again, you can recommend it all you want, and I agree with you completely. Again, you brought up the Gurkha thing, and they've dug their own, not grave, but their own hole that they got to dig themselves out of. In my opinion. So definitely recommend to try everything, or as much as you can. But there's so many options out there that's up to, if you think about it, the responsibility, like I said, goes back to the manufacturer. It goes back to even like the retail side of anything. Like this goes to any industry, but in the cigar industry, the bourbon industry, if you ask me, what do you recommend drinking, and I'm in like the liquor department and say it's a similar feel as like a cigar shop, it's going to get down to the point if I'm listening to what you are telling me and I give you a recommendation based off of your input. There's two sides to that, right? But in your mind as a consumer, in my mind as a consumer, if I've told you all of this stuff, and I'm even educated to the point where I'm like, I like these 3 whiskeys. We'll take it off cigars for a second. I like these 3 whiskeys. And they're like, oh, if you like those 3, try this. And so I spend my money, and I try this whiskey, and I'm like, this doesn't taste anything like the other 3. And you do a little research on it, and like, this is why it doesn't taste like any of the other 3. Like, the mash bill is completely different. I may go back to that store, but now I've got my guard up because either this guy was reaching and really trying to throw me a curveball and be like, hey, do you like it? But if I come back in, like, I got to be honest, I didn't. And I looked it up, and this isn't anywhere close to the other 3 that I was talking about. And his only saving grace there as a salesperson, if he's a really good salesperson, is like, I knew it wasn't, but I just wanted to see what you thought about it. Now, there's 2 sides to that, too, and there's 2 sides to everything. It's kind of like, I can appreciate you trying to open my eyes to something different, but at the same time, that was my $40.
Yeah, that's your money.
like, bro, like, you gotta be honest, man. Like, or buying a cigar, even $10 on average, anymore. It's like, hey, I told you what I liked. Now, if I came in and I said, hey, this is what I like, give me something completely different.
Yeah.
And even as a retailer, I'm not going to be like, well, I'm going to go way off the reservation. No, I'm going to take like a step off and be like, all right, so this is different. You like medium-bodied stuff. Here's a La Aurora 115. You were talking about Nicaraguan tobacco. Yeah. Try this. This is different. Yeah. I want to know what you think.
No, I was.
That's okay.
I ask my customers a lot of questions.
Really?
A lot.
Well, this is the time of year for that.
Yes.
Because in the retail industry, there are a lot of people that are buying cigars for friends, for loved ones, for family members, and a lot of times, some of the people that come in to buy those cigars, they don't smoke. They don't know the first thing about cigars. They don't even know necessarily what the person they're buying for likes, and so they ask you a lot of questions. So, with this also being a very busy season with the holidays, like, we end up spending a lot of time with each customer nowadays because they're asking so many questions. Because we want to make sure as a retailer that we're selling them something that the person they're buying for is going to enjoy. So when I made that recommendation on Saturday, I didn't pick something off the reservation. I picked something that flavor-wise is exactly what this guy was looking for.
Yeah.
So I picked the same wheelhouse, but just picked a different manufacturer than what he was accustomed to.
That's fair.
But the cigar was the kind of cigar that he was looking for, and that's why he enjoyed that smoke. And it was the Sublime's Esquiro.
That's a good cigar.
It's a really good cigar.
It's very good.
Yeah.
All right, so Nate, let's go with the pairing here. What do you think? I'm going to pass this down. If you pass this down, cue to him to top it off, and then I'm going to crack that heaven's door you brought in here.
It's funny we're talking about this. I actually gained a customer Friday.
Okay. How?
An older gentleman came in. He seemed serious.
Am I finishing this bottle?
Sure.
Ah, damn it.
He was real serious.
I have to. Yeah.
He came in. I asked him all the same questions. What have you smoked that you like?
Yeah.
Do you remember the name, the brand? What size was it?
I ask that
you
all the
want
time.
something light, medium, full body? How long you been smoking for? What's your price point? When I got to the price point, he was like, it's been a while. $15 to $20. Is that good?
That opens up.
No, I told him no. And he looked at me. He opened eyes. He said, what do you mean no? I said, you should never walk into a cigar shop and say that. And he looked at me. He goes, why would you say that? I said, because they're going to sell you something that you probably will not like or may like, but there are some good smokes out there for $10, $12.
Like this
There are,
Aurora
yeah.
that we're smoking right now.
Exactly. So I actually put some cigars in his hand. He turned around, shook my hand. He said, this is the first shop I've been to where somebody was actually being honest with me, the sales rep or the clerk,
Yeah.
instead of trying to push whatever product they're trying to push.
I get that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'll say that,
And he came back Saturday and bought more cigars.
see, that's nice.
And he wasn't from Columbus. He's like, next time I'm in town, this is my shop.
You got to watch that to a point. Obviously, you don't want a profile coming in the door and, they're
Exactly.
saying $15 and you're like, you're probably more of a $6 guy. You know what I mean? Don't shoot yourself in the foot. But I like you. You come across genuine, and I think that will come across to the customer.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'll be happy to sell you.
I've
15.
had arguments with people in the humidor over cigars. And the funny thing is,
doubt that.
but they actually respect that. They're like, okay, you're not going to sit here and and go along with me just to get the product in your hand. It's like, no,
Right.
I want you to come back.
When you have enough of a selection, though, I think on the cigar side of it's sometimes you do have to say, all right, so Brian, the owner of Tinderbox, is really good. Like this time of the year especially. When we have cigars that we've had for a while, they're good cigars, they haven't been selling. I don't have a problem with pushing certain ones if they're open. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's like, hey, it's not really my go-to, but you're looking for a medium-bodied cigar. You like Dominican tobacco from what you're telling me. I don't normally smoke this, but we carry it for a reason. It's not just because, we carry it. And so I haven't recommended this in 6 months, in my mind, I'm thinking. But it's like, to this person, we need to sell it. We sell this product. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do from a retail standpoint, in my opinion, is say, no, that cigar's no good, because me as a consumer, I'm like, then why is it on your shelf?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I like the point, though, is that you be honest and you can kind of take them to a point where, like, yeah, you come in $15, $20. Like, that opens everything almost.
Yeah,
like,
does.
that opens up almost, for us, 90% of the humidor. $20 cigar.
Same thing for us.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen in a lot of places that are in that kind of normal Keystone markup. But when you say that, I like to give a range. It's like, all right, so you want to spend $15, $20. Here's this, this, and this. Based on what we've talked about, I think you're going to enjoy any of these three. Now, I also will recommend, if you want to add, like in this, you can look at it from a sales standpoint, because you don't know how many cigars. You're like, I'm just looking for one. And you're like, all right, so here's your $15 to $20 range. For the next visit, or if you're looking for a second one, here's going to be your $10 to $15 range.
Yeah.
And you never know, like, to you, he's a repeat customer now. They can look at it as, oh, you're shoving more cigars down my throat, or they can look at it as like, all right, well, no, you know what? Next, just throw one of those in too. And so now you've made it work as a retailer.
Yeah.
You've sold more product, which is that we're in business for a reason.
Exactly.
And then the other side of it is that you've opened it up. You're like, hey, I hit what you wanted, and I'm also opened up to this side of it, where now you're smoking something that's, you may not touch a $10 cigar, because in your mind you think 15 and 20 is what's a good cigar cost.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
there's no right way about it.
Yeah. There was another lady who came in Saturday. She wanted to buy one cigar for her husband, and she wanted to spend around $20 on a cigar. And I recommend her a cigar that was right around $20. And the cabinet that it was in, the cigars that are in that cabinet range from about 17, with the exception of the one extremely expensive one, they range from 17 to 46. And I was like, these range from 17 to 46. If you want a $20 cigar, this one right here is going to be the one that you're probably going to be most interested in getting. And then she's like, well, what separates this $20 cigar from this $46 cigar? So I start talking to her about the difference between those, and she's
20,
like,
$30.
yeah, $20.
Hey Siri, what's the difference between
As Alexa.
Alexa?
But no, so I was telling her, the difference between those two cigars, and she's like, you know what? Just give me the $46 cigar. Like you wanted a $20 cigar. I was going to sell you a $20 cigar, but okay, I'll sell you the $46 one.
I don't feel guilty about it.
I don't feel guilty about that.
Yeah. I think, again, smoke them all. I think drink them all. You know, it's the same thing. You might price yourself out on the whiskey or the cigars or anything else. I mean, once you start talking price, again, that's my point, earlier was the fact that I can give you a recommendation, but if I'm not listening and I'm not giving an honest one, whether it's price or anything else, just fucking have a conversation with the person. Yep. You know what I mean? Because at that point, you're in the business to sell the product, no matter what it is. But at the same time, you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot and sell yourself short by going like, "Hey, I'm going to save this person money," because they didn't want to save money. They wanted to spend whatever. But it's educating both sides of the coin.
I feel like in that scenario, he was trying me, kind of. Because as soon as he walked in, he just threw that out there. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Then I thought about it somewhere. I was like, no.
Well.
But he was happy. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the end game.
That's it, yeah. And repeat customers are the best ones.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Nate, I don't think you ever really said, what do you think about the pairing here before we move on to part 2?
I really enjoy it because I don't think the cigar or the peg leg porker, I don't think either one overpowers the other.
Yeah.
They're both enjoyable. You still get the flavor out of both of them, whether you do whiskey then cigar, cigar then whiskey. Like neither one overpower or overshadows. So, they're enjoyable as a pair. I don't think they necessarily complement each other. Like there was a pairing we had a couple weeks ago where the sweetness of the whiskey balanced with the spice of the cigar or vice versa. I don't get that with this one, but it's not a bad pairing. They're not contradicting each other, but they're both good on their own. They're both fine together. But they're not enhancing each other.
All right. Would you pair them up again, or would you try something different? One way or another.
He would try something different.
I was going to say
you would try something different.
You just gave it's not you, it's me. Review.
Yeah. It's exactly what it was.
Isn't that what it is?
Yeah, exactly.
You just broke up with the cigar and the whiskey.
Now let me ask you all a question, since you guys are the bourbon expert.
I don't know about expert.
Peace out.
Okay.
Drink a lot.
Okay, so if I get this a lot in the shops. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm drinking
a certain
whiskey.
Yeah.
What would pair with it?
Yep,
Yeah.
we get that.
What would be the best answer?
Honestly, for you, you don't know.
Well,
I've always say that sometimes.
No, I say it all the time. I don't drink, but everything I've been taught and read and looked at, I was always told to go if it's dark, the drink is dark, you want to go lighter, so there's a contrast. Because I know I used to drink hardcore, and back then I drank.
Right.
I smoked cigars.
Yeah.
Not appreciating either of the or. It was just at the moment. But thinking back, I wish I would have paid more attention to what I was smoking with what I was drinking. Because if you got a full body cigar and a full body drink, it's a lot going on in your palate, right? I mean,
we made that mistake one episode. We had a very full body cigar with an extremely full hot whiskey.
And what do you mean by hot?
So it was 120. It was 128.8 proof, and when it hit your palate, like your entire mouth felt like it was on fire.
Kind of like 151 back in the day.
More flavor.
Okay.
Better quality whiskey.
Hey.
But
talking about my past here.
That used to be my drink.
but the cigar was an Oliva V.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, exactly. So on their own, they were great. Together, no. There was just too much going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, sometimes if someone's drinking a really full body whiskey, I necessarily won't go too mild because then that whiskey is going to overpower the cigar.
Okay. Or
vice versa. If they're drinking something lighter, I don't want to go full on the whiskey because then that whiskey is going to overpower the cigar.
Yeah.
So for you, I would recommend, like, when you drink this, like, what do you like about it? Like, try and see if they can give you the same kind of taste characteristics that you get out of a cigar.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Yeah, and then find a cigar that matches that, or complements it.
Yeah, I would say
You
go
go that
with
way.
some of the again, treetop level type of flavors.
Okay.
So you smoke enough cigars, you drink coffee, you drink tea.
Yes.
Yeah, so
drink a lot of tea.
teas are going to be, I think, in your wheelhouse here. Is what would you compare, or what would you pair? Not compare, excuse me. What would you pair? What cigar would you pair with a lighter, sweeter tea? Think about that, because there's going to be some sweeter whiskeys out there. There's going to be a little bit like the weeded ones are going to be, I think, a little sweeter sometimes. Yeah. And then if there's going to be like the more oaky, are you drinking like barrel proof? Are you drinking what if they say like, oh, I'm drinking barrel proof this, or I'm drinking
figure out. Listen to what they're saying about what they're drinking,
Yeah.
and then think about that in a cigar perspective.
Yeah, and so that's where it's like this is the conversation that I would have, and this is, I think, for a lot of the comparisons, is that when they say, hey, what would go well with Heaven's Door, right, which is what you brought tonight for the bottle here, and you say, well, I haven't had Heaven's Door. In fact, I don't really drink, but I do know, I mean, I used to drink quite a bit as far as different whiskeys and everything like that. You don't have to talk about it. I used to get drink hardcore.
Yes.
But you say, have you had Heaven's Door before? And if they say yeah or no, but I've heard it's this, is it sweeter? Is do you know what the proof is? Is it got some heat to it, spice to it, oaky? What do you, most of them are going to have oakiness. Is it more like that smooth vanilla? Do you know what it is? I think that's when your brain will recognize some of the things that you're talking about when they say, yeah, it's a little sweeter, like vanilla, very smooth, creamy. All right, well, now I'm in that kind of mild to medium range.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm not going to go full-bodied. I'm going to go mild to medium. You can go with like a Butera or like a mild Griffin's. You can go with, some of the lighter ones, the very smooth ones that might complement that flavor profile.
No, that makes sense.
If you're going real oaky, you're going with, a little more heat. Go kind of medium to full, but maybe not too spicy, because unless they say, well, do you want like a spicier cigar that kind of is right in the same wheelhouse is what you're drinking, or do you want to kind of back it off? Because my thing with any of this stuff, with the pairing, we've kind of talked about this in all these almost 100 episodes, is that I don't want, there's not a good pairing that it's always like, oh, it brings out flavors and this and this. Sometimes it just goes well together. Sometimes it contradicts it in a good way. I'm drinking a lighter whiskey, but as long as, for me, if I'm taking a sip of the whiskey, I set that down and I take a smoke of the cigar, and if they're not necessarily tasting different together because they're paired in quotes, but I can taste both of them and not one or the other is getting overpowered.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good pairing to me. From the very fundamental part of it is that I'm going to enjoy the whiskey and I'm going to enjoy the cigar. I'm not going to take a sip of whiskey and then puff on the cigar and be like, I can't do one of these at the same time.
I used to do that with the Solemn 13 Connecticut wrapper with coffee.
Yeah.
It's really good because the sweetness is not overpowering.
Right.
I tried that with the Java series, and it was too much sweet.
Coffee. Sweet.
It's way too much. But then I actually tried the Blondie with a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's actually really good. But it has
flavor.
enough sweetness, a lot of flavor.
A lot of flavor.
But the coffee kind of dumbed down that, I don't want to, what's the word, aromatic flavor of a Blondie.
Yeah.
It's kind of that bitterness that you get from a black coffee.
So the coffee actually kind of, so it was good.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
All right. Well, I would say this combo pairs fairly well together. I would say I recommend the whiskey. If you can get your hands on the Peg Leg Porker, I would definitely try a bottle. Again, we're clueless on the price, so if you get a chance, if it's $80, I would say maybe try a glass at a bar first.
There you go.
But if it's in that $40 range or something like that, I think it's worth the pickup. I think it's unique. It's nice. The hickory finish and everything is very, very good and different. The La Aurora 115, we've talked about that a lot, the second half of this part of the podcast, and I think it's definitely worth smoking as well. It is unique as well. That's what I like about this pairing, is that both aspects of it are fairly unique to the representative industries, is what I look at this as. So I want to thank Tinderbox at Easton for part one. For those of you guys that are free on Wednesdays, or if you're listening right now live on Facebook, we're going to continue into part two after a short break. But I want to thank Tinderbox at Easton for the La Aurora 115. We've enjoyed it, and we appreciate that support. Also, I'll be lighting up here shortly the Romeo Julieta 1875, which is from Altadis USA, which is another one of our sponsors. We appreciate that continued support as well. You see their banner behind us. We smoke that every week for the second cigar, something from Altadis, various brands. And then also BS Cigar Company, thank you for the continued support. I did have a BS Silver in front of me, but now it's Q's. And I want to thank Q for being a part of this podcast. I'm looking forward to the second part. We're going to be talking about in part 2, new beginnings. We're getting into the new year, so we're going to dive into new beginnings, what that means as far as with the new year, and also different aspects. He just had a change in his life. We found out again last night as far as career-wise. So it's interesting to see how life can evolve. What's that?
Patreon.
And also, yeah, Patreon. So we're going to be the new year is going to bring some tiers to our Patreon organization as far as that goes. So you can go to patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast, and right now you can donate whatever you want, $1, $5. The default's $5. That's going to help us do things like we just had to buy a new mixer board, the bourbon fund, if you will, to keep this to be self-sustaining. And then also when we're going to expand on doing some more, better cameras, things like that. But it just keeps this podcast going. So if you guys you want to contribute, go ahead and check that out. We appreciate that. Going forward in the new year, we're going to do back-to-back tiers. Thanks,
heaters.
Ryan.
Can we get some new heaters?
And so, so it'll help out with the heaters next winter. So anyways, the Patreon thing, that's going to be a way that we can actually have some thank yous out there going into the new year. So once we get through the Christmas season, the holiday season, and the New Year season, we're going to have some tiers out there, and then I know Nate's going to help out. We haven't really talked about it, but I think he's going to help out as far as getting some swag that we can do as far as some mailing out things thanks to the Patreon patrons. So it's something that we're going to really expand in the next year. So we appreciate that. So guys, cheers. I have an empty glass, so I need to pour something for part 2 for sure.
Salud.
But cheers, guys. Thank you. Part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. All right, Facebook Live, don't go anywhere. We're going to share it again. I'm going to share it again for topic time. We're going to crack another bottle here, and then we're going to get into new beginnings. Q, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nate?
Well, I was going to ask kind of a segue question.
All right, you do that. I'm going to do the topic.
Okay.
Share.
So Q, for our Facebook listeners, and you don't have to get into anything too personal.
Okay.
Is there a specific reason why you no longer drink?
Wow. I used to drink a lot.
Yeah, we heard that.
No, a lot.
Okay.
Honestly, there's been a few times where I woke up sick, alcohol poisoning, especially when I was overseas. When I was in the military, we kind of work hard, play hard. The joke was you die hard.
Okay.
I was in the service for 8 years. I used to drink a lot, high-end stuff. I used to drink a lot, high-end stuff, but it got to the point where I just woke up one day back in 2003, shortly after my birthday. I didn't crave it anymore. I didn't want it.
Well, that's very commendable. That's very commendable because there's a lot of people out there that maybe have those same issues that you may have gone through, and they just don't stop.
Yeah, how do I say
and
this?
so you had to have a lot of willpower and self-control to be able to make that decision and stick with it.
Yeah, there's been a few times. I remember one night I was working at a bar. I was the general manager. So it was a busy night. We made a lot of money. Everything was safe, but it was just so much stuff behind the scene, the stress level. You're dealing with the staff, the customers. You're dealing with the staff, the customers. And it got to the point, I remember at the end of the night, I'm closing up, turning all the lights off, and I'm sitting there, and it was a good night, but the stress level. And I remember looking up, because the nice thing about this bar was, if you sat around the bar and you looked up, all the liquor was on this beautiful display in the inside of the bar.
Okay.
So no matter where you sat in the bar, you looked up, you could see all the liquor. And I remember sitting there looking for 151. Just standing there, sitting there looking around. And then it dawned on me, we don't sell 151. We don't sell any Bacardi.
Okay.
And I was like, I took it as a sign from God, like, you shouldn't be drinking.
Okay.
And honestly, I took it as a sign. I was like, time for me to go home. You start thinking about that, craving it. And it wasn't like I did anything bad, or it's just I realized who I am as a person. Even my work ethics, everything I do, I kind of push it to the extreme, to that envelope.
Okay.
And there's been a few times where I crossed that line, and I paid the piper for it. Mm-hmm. But I think it kind of goes back to, people take the life for granted until that freedom is taken away, or your privileges, or things you don't think about. And
so you were looking at what it was costing you, not from a monetary standpoint, but just
yes, correct.
Yeah,
correct. Especially being a minority. That's the one thing. Recently, I was just talking to my dad about how, between the Hispanic and the black community, statistically, we're more prone for colon cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, which all runs in our family, in my family, on both sides.
Okay.
So it's one of those things. It's like, okay, it's time for me to slow down. Well, mentally, when I started to slow down, that's when I lost everything. So it was kind of like I was already going in that direction, and I knew it. And I just got to the point where I was like, okay, pump the brakes. But by then, God had other plans for me, or life.
I like that.
That kind of reminds me when I was so my mom used to be a big cigarette smoker, and when I was 6 years old, my mom had just gotten done smoking a cigarette. She was sitting on the couch, and she's like, "Nate, come sit on my lap." And I went, "No, you stink," and I ran up to my bedroom. And a couple hours later, I was downstairs. I went to the bathroom, and in the trash can was my mom's cigarette pouch. She had one of those kind of fancy,
the old ones,
with the clasp, and had a little spot for your lighter.
Yeah, on the outside.
And it was in the trash. And I pulled it out of the trash, and I'm like, "Hey, Mom, your cigarettes dropped in the trash can." She goes, "They didn't fall. I threw them away because what you said made me realize I have to choose between either cigarettes or my son." Mm-hmm. And I'm going to pick my son every time.
Nice.
My mom has not touched a cigarette since then.
Nice.
And that was in 1990.
Wow.
Damn.
So I definitely commend you for.
My mom is pissed at me for smoking. Every time I come in the house, no matter what I spray, no matter how many extra set of clothes, but because I smoke in my car, it still lingers.
Oh yeah.
So I try to be slick, throw my gear on, walk in the house. She's like, that smell. I quit smoking so everybody else could continue to smoke.
And what do you do for a living?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, she hates it. She hates it. She's worried all the time.
It pays the bills.
I got home last night and not quite as serious as you guys. It was kind of funny, though, in my opinion. You're talking about smelling smoke and everything. So I come home, and Liz had told me, she's like, I'm folding laundry and all this stuff. I'm like, cool. Well, I had done nicer, clothes in the wash, and I had a laundry basket downstairs with my dirty clothes that I wear to the cigar shop every day. And so she's like, hey, I don't want to make a big deal out of it, but maybe use a little bit more detergent. Because I said, wait, why? She says, I can still smell the smoke on your clothes. And I said, wait, what clothes? And she said, the clothes that were in the laundry. And I said, those were dirty.
What she do, fold them?
Yeah, she folded them, put them in the drawers. And then I'm like, I don't think I have anything to apologize for. She's like, it just doesn't make sense to me while they're sitting by the wash in a basket. And I was like, but I had 2 sweaters in the dryer, so she just thought that those were clean. I had to apologize somehow for not finishing my laundry, and then I felt bad because she spent the time to fold the laundry.
She folded dirty laundry.
And I was like, thank you, but I don't think I should apologize. She's like, I'm just trying to make sense of why you wouldn't have washed that or start. I was like, I didn't have time. I wanted to go to bed. You could have thrown it in the wash. Okay, my fault.
You ready?
Let's go to the audio. Yeah, I'm ready. All right, happy Whiskey Wednesday, everyone. Part 2, episode 97. We want to thank our sponsors, Tinderbox at Easton, for our cigar for part 1, which was a La Aurora, which I think we're all still smoking, except for Nate. He's lighting up the second one.
I do have another La Aurora I can get into.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. All right, La Aurora 115, great cigar. Listen to part 1 for the review of that, and then also thank you to Altadis USA for the 1875 Romeo Julieta. That's going to be the bully size. We're going to smoke that. It looks like Nate's starting on that one right there. And also be a Cigar Company for the continued support. I want to thank Q Marquez for being here. He brought some Heaven's Door, which I would like to crack, actually, if you would do the honors. And also Nate Hale, who is running the board and also on the mic. So for those of you that are on audio, I want to make a point here that in between part 1, part 2, it was kind of cool because Nate asked Q why he doesn't drink. And so if you guys want to check out his answer, just kind of scan towards about an hour and a half, hour and 25 into the video portion of it to check that out. It was good insight there. Nate also shared something with some changes that happened in his family, kind of similar around smoking as the topic. So that was good, and I appreciate it. Some heavy stuff. So thank you guys for being here, first of all. Q, for those of you that didn't listen to part 1, give a quick background, if you would, of how we know each other, why you're here, and what your role is.
I used to work for Diabolon. I was hired by Amira, his daughter.
In what company?
The House of Cigar, but at the location was the Monte Cristo Lounge in the Short North.
Okay, Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio. That Friday, I actually stopped working at Rachel's, which used to be a gentleman's club on Bryce Road. Everybody knows Rachel's. And then that Saturday, I was actually hanging out with my fiance, Anna, which you met. Mm-hmm. And we're sitting there hanging out. And by then, that was kind of like my go-to because I worked on the east side, but a lot of those people associated with that bar, you would never see them in the Short North. So it was like one of the few places. And I live in South Linden, which is not that far. So it was a nice lounge. You just opened up. Just the way it was laid out was beautiful at the time.
Yeah.
And it was a nice place for me to hang out. So we're sitting there hanging out. My girl had a hookah. Actually had the tin of Tatiana Groovy Blue.
Are you selling Tatianas now?
No.
All right.
I think he gets commission.
Yeah, 10%.
10 cents every time you say the name on air.
So, Jerry. And she used to drink this tall tin of Red Bull.
Yeah.
While she did that, I would smoke my cigars and drink my Turkish coffee.
Yeah.
So then Amira comes over there one day. She's like, hey, you start Sunday.
Really?
It's like, what's going on Sunday? She was like, Wade, you're going to be working for Wade, who's the manager. And he just became the manager just recently.
Okay.
And that's who I actually learned under.
Fantastic.
I did that for a couple of years. I bounced between that location, Huntley Road, which is the main warehouse. Mm-hmm. And then I was given an opportunity by Ben and Justin after Justin and Justin went their own separate ways, and Justin Hannes became the sole owner of Governors.
Governors. And that's in Westerville, Ohio.
That's in Westerville, Ohio. And Ben was the manager at the time, but Ben was supposed to be going out of state to do some community service, like build a church or something. So they're like, hey, we're looking for somebody to come up here. We think you're the man.
Nice.
And so they gave me an opportunity, which was a blessing, honestly, because I've been there ever since.
Yeah, and now it's expanded. So
yes,
we appreciate having you on. And then Nate, obviously, you guys that listen to the podcast, you know Nate Hale. So we appreciate you being on the panel tonight as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
This is the part. So part 2 is going to be more of the life topic. We started splitting this up more deliberately recently, and I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback. And I like the way this goes. Is that we have more of part 1's going to be the whiskey, the cigars, kind of talking more industry stuff. Where this is going to be more of the community side of it. And want to also mention for those of you on the audio and for those of you listening to video, sorry to be a broken record here, but we also have a Patreon page. So if you guys want to support us for any of the 3 aspects of it or all of them, you want to definitely get behind us and throw just a couple bucks a month. That does help. I mean, we're not trying to make a bunch of money off of this unless you want to donate millions of dollars. That'd be fine too. But I will say that it helps out with all the little stuff, the bourbon, the production stuff, all of that. So that's patreon.com/Bourbon and BS podcast, and you can contribute. So we're going to be working on getting some swag out there in the new year for Patreon customers. It's great. Might do some bonus feedback as well, or as far as episodes or reviews and stuff like that. So appreciate that. With the new beginnings, this is the time of the year, obviously, that you talk about New Year's resolutions, the end of 2019. I've been thinking about, seeing a lot about the whole thing of now it's even, it's just like the Christmas season we were talking about earlier, where with Black Friday, it's not really Black Friday anymore. Basically it's like the month of November, and now it's the whole month of December. It's sales, sales, sales. You're going to miss out on one where you get another email 2 days later, and you might have just bought something at full retail, and you kind of kick yourself, try to return it, do that whole song and dance. But with the New Year's resolutions, the new beginnings, and that's not all we're going to talk about, but I want to kind of frame the conversation is that what's happening now, in my opinion, with the age of social media and people being almost beyond instant gratification anymore. Now it's getting ahead of it, which I like because there's a little bit more planning involved. But now I'm seeing, it was about 2 weeks ago or whatever, I'm seeing posts by a lot of people. It's like, what's your 2020 you going to be like? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, you've got 35 days left of 2019. What are you going to do with it to prepare yourself for 2020? I kind of like it. I will say that. I like the fact that people are kind of getting ahead of it to a point, but I think you're still using the new beginning, the new you, all that stuff based on a calendar, which I don't care for.
Yeah, why wait till the new year?
Why wait till the new year? Why wait till Monday? I'm going to start eating healthy on Monday. You know what I mean? It's like it's Saturday. Just fucking eat a salad now, whatever.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Don't go kill some wings. You're like, well, but Monday I'm going to do it. It's like you said that last week.
Well, they're grilled chicken.
I think I said that.
like that.
I think I said that like last year, or it was a long time ago on a podcast. I said something similar to that. Like, why wait? Like, because I hate New Year's resolutions. I mean, because why wait? Why are you waiting until the New Year?
You're not guaranteed today.
Absolutely.
You're not guaranteed tomorrow. So why am I going to wait another 15 days to start?
Yeah. Or why are you going to wait till your birthday?
Yeah.
Which I will bring up, by the way. That's a good segue if you guys aren't paying attention at home. Dustin Bovey, who's not feeling well, he's normally in the garage, but as of an hour or so tomorrow, or if you're listening like Ray is in Vietnam, I think it's already Dustin's birthday. So everyone out there, raise a glass. Dustin Bovey, who's a part of the podcast. Happy birthday, Dustin. Hope you feel better. So yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that was.
Want to jump in there?
I mean, I'm a New Year's Eve baby.
I know you are.
Yeah, so I don't get the whole.
Tough to make a reservation on your birthday, even though you guys do every year.
We do every year. We make it about 5 months in advance. Because usually for my birthday we go to Ocean Club.
Nice.
For my wife's birthday I make dinner. So like last month was her birthday. I made filet mignon and some scallops.
Nice.
And some potatoes and
she takes you out for yours.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that.
I'm good with that.
At least it's the Ocean Club and not like White Castle or.
No, I'll tell you what though.
Oh, here we go.
White
Here we go.
No. My wife would kill to be able to eat White Castle. My wife can't eat White Castle.
Okay.
My wife has celiac disease, so she's not one of those people that doesn't do gluten as a diet or as a fad.
Right.
Like, no, she eats gluten, she's going to be sick. So. Yeah, she misses White Castle.
So White Castle makes a lot of people sick, in all fairness. So
it's the onions.
It's the onions.
No, seriously, it's
Is
the
it?
onions. It is the onions. If you get it without the onions, you'll be fine.
But they taste great.
I get mine with extra pickle.
Sacrifices. We all make sacrifices, which brings me to new beginnings. No, just kidding.
Sacrifice for you or your loved ones.
Yeah, everyone involved. Sometimes life gets difficult.
It does. It sure does.
So with the new beginnings, we're getting a lot of feedback here on the Facebook feed already about New Year's resolutions. I brought up this topic actually because Q was going to be on the podcast, and I started thinking about what I know of him over the last 10 years. We've had a lot of heart-to-hearts over the years. I wouldn't say that we see each other as often as we should. We don't have we don't have that kind of relationship that we hang out all the time. But when we do sit down, it's either great small talk or it's something like hey, let me bend your ear about something, and I like that. And I know that we've all been through it. I've shared a lot, and I can dive into relate to some of the things here as well. But when I think about new beginnings, a lot of the times I am kind of bringing in the New Year's resolution that people not caring for, waiting for a date, a new year to be a new you or make a change. Because at least in my life, and I don't know, Q, where you come from or Nate, but a lot of the new beginnings on my side of it have been because I've waited, and then I don't feel like I have as much control over the new beginning that has now kind of presented itself upon me, like a new job. New relationship, or the end of a relationship, or the end of a job, Or, you know, you talk about health things, same thing. It's like, you know, I'm going to start working out on Monday. I'm going to start doing this. It was more or less like with the health thing for me, it was I just decided that I wanted to feel better, looked in the mirror, and I actually took an honest look at that I wasn't the same person I was 5 to 7 years ago when I look in the mirror, and that's why my knees hurt at 29 years old or something like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not because, I'm getting old. No, you're in your fucking 20s. Like, looking back now, 10 years ago, I could say that to myself 10 years ago. It's like, no, it's because you're 50 pounds overweight, what you're used to, and you eat too much, and you're, you know, all this stuff. Same thing with the job. You know, it's not always in your control. But for me, I'm looking at the new beginnings. And Q, give me a little bit of your past because, you know, and I'm going to highlight this the best I can, kind of frame it. You
Sure.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But you've got a Puerto Rican background. Mm-hmm. You lived there or no?
No, I was born there, but my dad was in the military, so
Right.
I didn't get to stay.
You didn't get to stay, so you came here, grow up, all this stuff, and then you yourself joined the military.
Correct.
How old were you?
18.
18 years old. And how long were you in the military? What branch?
Army, 8 years.
8 years.
Mm-hmm.
And how old are you now?
44.
44. Okay. And then after the Army, was it shortly thereafter you had some troubles?
No, actually, it was a while.
A while after?
Yeah, I didn't have that structure I needed.
Yeah. And then now, fast forward, you've got to the point you say you don't drink since 2003.
Yes.
If I recall. And then now you've kind of gotten into a world of you were in, we'll call it the entertainment industry.
Yes.
And then you've got the tobacco industry.
Correct.
And now you're kind of full-blown tobacco industry.
Sure.
That's my synopsis. Everyone cue, like just kind of walk us through what I just kind of highlighted.
So basically, I kind of grew up in a structure at home. Like I mentioned before, my father was a master sergeant. He knew since he was young, he was going to join the military and get out of Puerto Rico and take my mom with him. Like, he knew.
So he's part of the U.S. military?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was Army.
Army as well?
Yep. He knew. So we traveled, as a kid growing up. I was fortunate enough that I lived in, Kentucky, Indiana, Oklahoma, Germany twice.
You've seen a lot of the world.
Indiana, Fort Benjamin Harrison. I've seen a lot. I was lucky. I was blessed in that sense. So when I turned 18, there was a gentleman that was trying to help me out. I actually had a full ride scholarship to OSU in the art department.
Wow.
My father was pushing me for it. Being a kid, he was, I don't want you to join the military. What do I do? Join the military.
Exactly.
And also, a lot of it had to do with the fact that being young and naive, I didn't want to stay in Ohio because I wasn't from Ohio.
Well, you were used to traveling too,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, yeah.
That was your life.
That was my life. Every
Yeah.
3 years, you knew, box it up, move on.
Yeah.
And that's still kind of with me, and that's the nice thing about the cigar industry. I've been to Cuba twice. Next year, I plan on going to Dominican Republic, visiting the different countries, all cigar related. Anywhere I go, I feel welcome. If there's a cigar shop, I'm welcome.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
few times I've been to Tampa, Miami. Funny story, I got a couple of cousins that live in Tampa, and I think it's called Whitewater. I can't think of the community. And I was like, hey, what do you want to do? Like, now my cousins, they're young, hookah, they drink, they party.
Yeah.
And they're from, I would say most of their life, they've been in Florida, if not Puerto Rico. So they're part of the locals.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so they were like, hey, let's go this. What do you want to do? Because I don't drink. I don't eat pork. So I'm kind of limited to.
You say you don't eat what?
I don't eat pork.
Yeah, down there that's tough too.
Very tough. It's funny. People ask me all the time, like, you sure you're Puerto Rican? It's like my grandmother joked about that. They're cooking this beautiful slab of ribs. And then when it comes time to feed, my grandmother made a plate. I had to tell her, like, I don't eat pork. And she just kept looking at me like, what? No, it's good. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm like, it's not to me. It's just, I don't eat pork. It's not the meal.
This was a personal decision.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. A lot of it was influenced with my soldiers in the military. I had a lot of soldiers that were of the Muslim faith, and some of them were Jews.
Okay.
And being a sergeant at that time, And a couple of them I lived with in the barracks and outside the barracks. So they didn't eat pork, so I decided not to eat pork. And a lot of it also had to do with the sodium intake, and it's hard for your body to digest. So I just stopped eating it.
So you're learning both the military side of it. You know, like you join the military because that's what you're used to. You stop eating pork. That's what you're getting used to.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I did my 8 years, got bored, got out. Yeah. Well,
a long time. I mean, it's longer than a lot, actually.
No,
you 4 years,
statistically
right?
speaking, compared to today,
Yeah.
I was halfway there from retirement.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So once you get 8 years, a lot of people will just stay in.
Yes, exactly.
To do career and then basically retire and maybe do something else or.
Exactly. Well, it's like my father. He retired at 38, turning 39.
Okay. That's
and
amazing.
I remember joking, "Oh, hey, old man, you're gonna, move down to Florida, get the flip flops with the tank top, the whole stereotype." And he got pissed. He kind of looked at me. He's like, "What are you saying?" He's like, "I'll outrun you." I mean, now my old man still, at that time, got up every day in the morning, 5:30.
Yeah.
He was programmed. So I remember him giving me a hard time about it. Now I'm 44, and I got people.
You wish you would have retired at 39.
Well, no, but I remember
Don't we all?
he continued to work for the next.
Now, I wish, it'd be great.
He still continued to work till just recently, but I remember him giving me that look. Now I'm 44, and that's like, dude, I'm still moving. Like, what are you talking about retirement? Like,
yeah.
As long as the sun is coming up, I'm still going to work. That's how I look at it. So I did 8 years, got out, because that's another thing too. You train every day.
Right.
You train. And I made the mistake. The career I chose was not combat ready. So anytime I tried to volunteer, I got pushed back. So after 8 years, I was kind of maxed out. I got out.
Okay.
After I got out, I always work. Always.
What did you do after you got out of the military? Like, what was your first job as a civilian?
Walmart on Morris Road, before it became a super center, was a small location.
Yeah.
I actually worked third shift, so I did the stuff that was coming off the trucks, put them in the little dividers and put them out to the little areas.
Yeah.
But I was also responsible for kind of help building the expansion of the grocery aspect of it.
Okay.
I did that. I did construction on the side, worked on cars. I mean, I always had a couple of jobs. Always. And then I ran across some individuals. And I kind of, rowdy crowd. I took a bunch of misfits.
Coworkers or?
No, just people locally.
Okay.
People I grew up with that were still there.
Yeah.
And basically started running the streets, but not for the popularity of it or trying to be cool or the lifestyle. There was money to be made.
So there you are. You're working at Walmart, third shift, making an okay wage. But obviously there's more money elsewhere.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
So I ran with a bunch of guys, and it just got to the point where it came after us.
Now, had you quit Walmart?
Actually, no. I was still working part-time at Walmart.
Okay.
I think I had another job at the time, too. I mean, that was back in late 90s, early 2000s.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Mm-hmm. All right, so what happened?
In 2002, I caught a case.
Okay.
Indictments came down. At that time, it's called a future indictment. So basically, they build a case, they hit you with something, or you get caught with possession or whatever it is you're doing. So instead of going through the legal process right then and there, it's called a future indictment. So what they do is they kind of give you the room to screw up. So now they're building a case. So about a year and a half goes by. I'm back in Seattle.
You were never in Seattle in this story, first of all.
Well, my last duty station was Fort Lewis, Washington. That was actually home to me. That's why when I got out, I actually was working there, breeding dogs and doing security.
Okay.
The whole time I was in the military, no matter where I was at, I was always working a bar. As a bar back, checking IDs. It was extra cash, and I was good at it.
Yeah.
So a future indictment. So basically, my attorney was like, "Hey, you could go wherever you want, but if this paperwork comes back, you're gonna have to
You have to come back.
You're going to have to come back.
Yeah.
So about a year and a half goes by. I had to come back. So they extradited me back.
Mm-hmm.
I sat in the workhouse for 15 months. I went through 3 attorneys. He's like, I went through 3
Studio audience.
Yeah. I went through 3 attorneys.
Yeah.
I ended up with a gentleman named Lou Dye.
I know that guy.
Yeah.
I know that guy. I miss him.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Lou
rest in
Dye.
peace.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He was.
So Lou Dye, my father, now mind you, my father's still doing construction. He's well connected in Columbus. Like, people know him.
Okay.
So Lou Dye gave him a deal as far as like hiring one of his attorneys to take my case. And because I didn't cooperate, I didn't become an informant, I didn't snitch on anybody.
Okay.
I was the last one left. Everybody already did their year, the little time, and got out. Because I didn't cooperate, the prosecutor was coming after me. Now, again, this is how life is. The judge is Judge Reese.
I don't know that name.
I remember that name.
He just recently retired.
Okay.
He knew me when I was a kid because my father was one of maybe 3 active personnel at what is it called now?
DSCC.
DSCC, but I think back then it was like DFC or something.
Mm-hmm.
So he was just a captain in the National Guard. I would do PT with him, with my father.
As a kid.
Yeah. Because I was into like wrestling, different sports.
Yeah. Like physical activity, getting out there, running around.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So he remembered me and my father.
I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing when you're talking about a judge.
Actually, it was a good thing.
No, based on that history, though, it's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
It was a good thing.
Yeah.
Because they, even the law enforcement's involved in the case wanted me to cooperate because they felt like I was a good guy just hanging out with the wrong people.
I get it. I mean, and obviously they know your dad too, right?
Yes.
And they know you served the country
Correct.
for 8 years.
Correct.
I mean, your resume up until this point.
Yeah. Up to that point, I was like
Model citizen.
I was law. I paid my taxes. I did everything I was supposed to do.
Okay.
I wasn't out there doing anything, causing harm or anything, but there was a money opportunity and I took advantage of it.
Okay.
I actually, which is funny, life, but I was trying to make a certain amount of money and I made that money so fast. It's kind of hard to pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Because what people don't realize, you just can't walk away. Because like, if I walked away, there's a void there that needs to be filled, and that's where
the lifestyle, like the income, the people, what?
All of it, the operation aspect of it, everything. So what tends to happen is that's when you see a lot of the violence between shootouts and gangs, and you don't know the whole story, but a lot of that entails that because you build trust in that industry or in that.
No, you said it right. It's industry. I mean, it's illegitimate business. I mean,
correct.
That's what it is, and therefore the illegitimate side of it comes, poking its face through a lot harder.
Exactly.
they
So that
don't take legal action. Let me put it that way.
Exactly, they don't, and because of who I am and how I carry myself, people respected that, and it got to the point where I got in trouble. They came after us, but the judge actually made a deal with my attorney. Because the prosecutor, by the time I was getting sentenced, the prosecutor already went to go work for the feds, drug task force, some type of special forces, whatever. Yeah. So they didn't know what to do with me. Because the last thing you want is me to go to trial because all the informants, cops, undercover, they become exposed.
Okay.
So what they did was they kept the co-defendant at the workhouse on hand to testify against my character. And because they jumped the gun.
So they're trying to build a case.
Yes.
As that's going on is what you're saying. You're all right, this guy's doing what he's supposed to be doing now.
Because they didn't know who I was.
They did. Okay.
No, they physically caught me, but it was by accident. They thought I was somebody else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you still deserve to be caught in that.
No, of course, no, of course.
Yeah.
No,
Let's not glance.
But that's how
over that.
you. Yeah, that's how you got.
And that's one of
you
those
got-
things. Like I'm not proud of it
No.
because I wasn't raised. My old man struggled for years to get us away from that. He even told me one day. When he after they extradited me, I remembered he showed up at the workhouse. He said, "Hey, if I knew you wanted to be a gangster, I would have sent you back to Puerto Rico."
Right.
But he was like, what would have happened, right? I was like, I would have got ate up. He goes, exactly.
You'd been killed, probably.
Oh, no, I would, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have been dead.
Yeah.
That's not a question. And
All right,
honestly,
so-
at the rate that we were going,
Yeah.
in the God honest truth, that would have been it would have been a death. Because when you start to make so much money at the rate that we were going, we actually opened up a club, South Beach on 161.
Oh, is that-
Yeah.
I went there one time.
Yeah. But
It's terrible. Shannon had a bar
We
stool
actually have
there.
someone in our studio audience that went there too.
no, but it was one of those things where
I believe that was
you don't
actually.
you
Now
don't
that
realize
I know that,
you don't but it's one of those
like,
things.
who do these guys think they are?
Yeah, that was
All
us.
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hanging out the Latino clubs
Yep.
and
You called it South Beach for a reason.
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And it's funny too because like Chris Corso owns all these properties and bars.
Yeah.
Well, when he opened up Long Street Live, we were the first people to introduce the phone party concept at his clubs on Latino nights.
Really?
That was another thing.
Again,
like-
you were connected at that point.
And also, like how I am now, like I try to venture out.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing that, but I had more income.
Yeah, so you had more capital. You had more ability to do more. Okay.
Yeah. But it's just like everything else. Greed gets in the way. You lose focus on what you're doing. Even though I'm not saying it was the right thing, but for what I was doing and what my agenda was, I lost track.
All right, so what happened?
The judge, my attorney basically went to the judge and basically told him, what do you want from him?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And Judge Reese was trying to please everybody, but he was also trying to be fair to me. Because
He's got a job to do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So up to that point, everybody that I was involved with were career criminals from New York, different countries, well connected. So when I came along, it was kind of like, okay, what do we do with him? So the deal was I played out to 3 F1s,
Wow.
which if you don't know, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5.
So it's the minor felony, correct?
No, it's
No,
worse.
F- the worst.
F1's the
F1's
top
the
of the
worst.
list.
It's the worst. It's the
Okay.
worst. So I was looking at basically if I had taken the case to trial, I was looking at 57 years. 23 would have been mandatory.
Holy shit.
Now,
You're here today, so
yeah.
wow.
So I was looking at 50. What did I say? 57 max, minimum 21.
Yeah.
Obviously, I couldn't take it to trial
No.
because there was a lot of paperwork, audio, video surveillance, but I was more of the brains of the operation. So they scare you with these tactics, but I knew the truth and they knew the truth. So they were hoping I would take a deal. But after
Right.
15 months in the workhouse, that docket sits on the judge's docket. It doesn't look good on the judge. Those are open cases.
So 15 months open file here. What are we doing?
Oh, no. I caught my case in 02. I didn't get sentenced till 04.
Okay.
So what ended up happening is that I played out to 3 F1s, which carried 10, 10, 10, but it was 8, 5, and 5 for the charges. So the judge turned around and sentenced me to the minimum for the felonies.
Okay.
So the prosecutor's happy because now I've got F1s, which I'm still working on getting expunged and sealed. So they were happy, but I was happy because I got the minimum.
What's the minimum there? 20, you said?
No, if I taken a trial, but because I took the plea deal, I got 8, 5, and 5.
So
First
18.
time 18, but because I was first time offender, they were able to run a concurrent, which basically means they overlap.
So 8 years.
So I got sentenced to 8, but I had to do 5.
Okay.
So I ended up doing 6.5.
Okay.
Speaking of microphone.
Which I did 6.5 years, but I'm actually
Well, let's be honest. 6.5 is a lot better than 57
correct.
or 23. Either
Still a
way.
long time, though.
It's still a long time in your life.
A lot, yeah, it's a chunk, right?
Especially-
So you serve all 6.5?
I did 6.5, and then what I did was I judicialed myself out.
Explain that.
Okay, so judicial release basically means that, and that was the deal that the judge gave me, because the whole time I'm still cooperating in the sense of I'm not trying to argue and fight with them. I was like, look, just send me on my way. I'm not going to cooperate in the sense of what you want me to. And by then it was kind of too late, because by then everybody.
So they wanted you to rat or snitch on everyone else, but everyone else underneath you had already done that, and so you weren't
Above and under me.
Yeah, so there was no
But
advantage to you.
Well,
doing
no.
either
Well,
way.
the few people that I knew that if I had cooperated, I wouldn't be sitting at this table talking.
Gotcha. All right,
And they
paints
knew that.
picture.
And they knew that.
Okay.
And they knew that.
Yeah.
But there was nothing really for them to
They
kind
don't
of like.
prosecution doesn't care.
Oh no, they don't care. No, they don't care. So what I did, so judicial release basically means that because the judge sentenced me, he guaranteed me a judicial release as long as I didn't get any write-ups, meaning like you can't go to the hole, which is confinement, no tickets, no write-ups. So I went in with the mindset, I'm going to get myself out as fast as I can. So I'm certified in every program the state of Ohio has for the rehabilitation. I mean, janitorial, automotive, that's where I got my apprenticeship from.
Yeah.
Most of my apprenticeship
absolutely,
from.
yeah.
Dog trainer certified. AA. I went to all the AA, NA meetings. I went to Beyond Anger. I mean, things that had nothing to do with me. But also, I realized as I'm going through all these courses, because I'm trying to build my packet,
Yeah.
I learned a lot about why I drank the way I drank. Why
Why
you
you
know-
did what you did.
No, exactly. Because it wasn't like I was a kid struggling, or I grew up from
At this point in the story, you're late 20s?
No.
when I got out.
No, when you went in.
Yeah, late 20s.
Okay.
I got out at 34.
So all right, so 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's exactly 10 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
when I met you.
Yeah, that's why I know.
Sorry I didn't have me. I'm trying to think back 10 years ago. I had some significant things going on in my life. But
So
not that.
I learned the legal system, because one thing that's frustrating about the legal system in Ohio, there is no rehabilitation. There truly isn't. Okay, I'm gonna give you a good example, so something you can relate to.
Yeah, I'm interested because it
So
sounds
like when people used to be able to go to prison, come out with a degree.
Right. You did certifications.
I did certifications, but they stopped that in most prisons in Ohio because
Okay.
the taxpayers were upset that somebody could go to prison and walk out with an associate's or a bachelor or a master's or whatever the area is.
I feel like universities were probably mad at that too because they're losing out on money.
Yes, that's correct.
We've had topics on here about education, about
Yes.
the fact that it's like you got an 18-year-old going to college undecided, and then basically signing up for $80,000 to $100,000 in debt.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then you got inmates that are basically forced to be there.
Yes.
And if they so choose, they get a free education. More
Correct.
Or less. Free to them.
Yes.
Which I'm not going to go on that
Well-
side tangent. Nope. We're not going down the
Okay.
political side of that.
No, I
But-
wasn't
but-
going to. I wasn't going to.
It's not free. Go ahead.
But to me, I feel like, and what I experienced was when I got there, and at that time, CRC, which is like one of two processing centers. So you go there, and you're there for a couple of weeks till they put you on the Bluebird, which is the bus,
Okay.
and they send you to what's called your parent institution. And I think at that time there was 33 male institutions and maybe 3 females. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So CRC at that time was lifers, who are what they call cadres. Cadres are the ones that basically cook the food for the rest of the student or the
Yeah.
inmates. in all the programs.
I was gonna say you can move that heater back. Sorry, we're in the garage still. So, Sean, if you want to move it back towards the door there, so it hits more of the garage. You look cold. All right.
Thought he was going to catch him.
No,
that's
fire. I was wondering what he was doing.
That's perfect. Yeah.
I saw him doing a dance. That's why I was like, I kept looking up.
Yeah.
That's because his windbreakers were about ready to catch on fire.
Clearly, this is recorded live. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. That's
No, it's fine. So basically, as soon as I got there, I settled in with the lifers. Because if you're going to do time, don't let the time do you. And it's funny until you experience that.
Not funny.
You can't relate to it.
But yeah.
It's hard to understand till you do it. Or you're in that situation where you got to experience it. So I was in the law books. Every chance I had, I was in the law books. And one thing I picked up on is that people who don't know the law listen to other, what they call like jailhouse attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to knock anybody for it, but the last thing you want to do is listen to somebody who's never been an attorney, who's never been in the legal system, who's never ran a business, who doesn't know how to read the paperwork and interpret it correctly.
And any advice?
No, you're absolutely right. So when I got
Everyone
there,
has an opinion, but some people are educated and have experience.
So when I got there, one of the things that they said was like, "Oh, you got to do 5 years, and then you could apply." But if you read the law, it basically says 5 accredited years. So I was lucky. So when they were transporting me, and when I sat in Seattle for almost a month, the judge gave me credit for that. So as soon as I had the total amount of years,
yeah,
I filed. But because I kept my promise, I didn't get in trouble. I got called back to the courthouse. 2 weeks later, I was released.
So you had good behavior.
Basically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, that's what that most people, myself included, is what you hear. You know, like that's released on good behavior. But it's not just because you had good behavior. You did all the other steps.
Oh, my packet was thick.
Yeah.
I mean, I basically did every program the state of Ohio allowed me to do. Because there's certain programs they won't let you do unless it's case related. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I did everything. My packet was thick.
So you get out. Where do you go from there? Because, you know, it's like this is when we're talking about this with the new beginnings side of it. And, you know, I'm talking about, you know, relationships. You're talking about, you know, a career. I mean, this is clearly in a roundabout way or kind of for some people it might seem like a stretch. But, I mean, this is your life. I would equate this to your career change.
Yes.
From doing, you know, you were serving the country. Then all of a sudden you're working some day jobs, and then all of a sudden you get a part of this illegitimate business, and now all of a sudden you had a career change.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean that's
no, you're absolutely
I'm not
right.
trying to make light of it, but I mean that's it. Like you were doing this along with the rest of your life, and all of a sudden your career changed. Just like someone losing a job, they lose their house, they lose this, they lose that, and all of a sudden they lose their spouse. They spiral. This was basically based on your actions, so you did have some control over it clearly, but it's one of those things that, unbeknownst to you, out of your control, your next steps were dictated to you.
Correct.
So now you've changed it based on this new beginning, which was prison.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, and
You're
now
right.
you get through it. You come out, and so you said it's 10 years ago. The mindset of now you have another new beginning.
Yes.
So now
you're starting all over.
You're starting over, but you did all this stuff now. So we've walked through this part of the story, and now you've done what you can do for what you may call due diligence. You've earned the freedom again in this country,
which kind of goes back to the conversation we had earlier. It's like, why wait till tomorrow? You're not guaranteed anything.
True.
I mean, I remember
you were forced to wait. Clearly.
Well, yeah, but before I went in, that's the same thing that happened. It's like I had it all.
You could have changed it then, right?
Yes, but you know, you're thinking about today. You're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not, you know, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna stop. Because actually, the funny thing is,
or you're not gonna get caught.
Correct. I remember one day waking up thinking, my conscience was eating me. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I got to get out this. And the funny part about this, it's not funny, but it is funny. I remember thinking, I got to get out. And I started pushing people away. I started focusing more on my other jobs and slowly transitioning out. Well, the funny part is there's audios and videos of my co-defendants talking to undercover cops during transactions, and they're actually on there saying, they're like, hey, how's Q doing? And they're like, oh, he don't mess with us anymore. He's done. He's out the game. He's trying to turn his life around.
So as you're
they have all this on audio and video.
So as you're thinking about this, you're trying to exit. Now that's what
actually went and got my physical. 'Cause back then I didn't partake in. Even now I don't partake in drugs and stuff like that. I went and took my physical, passed my physical. I actually enlisted to go in the National Guard.
Wow.
Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah. And
so you were trying to move on.
Oh no, yeah, I was ready to move on because I knew I had to get out of Ohio. If I was going to change, I had to get out of Ohio. No matter where they sent me, I had to go. And 9/11 just happened.
All said and done, now you're out.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that find you? Where does that new beginning find you?
So
you've earned this now.
Correct.
And there's probably some people out there listening that may have different opinions about criminal background and all that stuff. But I mean, the fact of the matter is as far as I'm concerned, with all of this, especially with what you were doing, as far as that goes, I mean, I'm not talking about murder or anything else like that. No. I'm saying I'm not going to air anything. We don't have to get into specifics.
I was told I was involved in the logistics.
Okay.
That's what that actually
Bottom
came
line
from the courthouse.
is that
yes.
you served your time. Now you have this new beginning. You've earned this. This is something that I think is important because for me, when you talk about like bigger life topics, not everyone out there listening can relate necessarily to serving time. Clearly,
no. Yeah, that's a tough
and a lot of people will make light of situations like that in their relationship or when they go into work on Monday. It's like it's as if they're just serving time. So. They have an opportunity, and I look at that as this part of the story for me is while you're doing it, while you're unhappy with whatever it is, while you're quote serving time, or in your story, you're literally serving time. You made something of it. You started building yourself up to when the opportunity comes up, when you want to move on, when you want to make that next step. You've prepared yourself.
Yes.
Nate, what did you say?
So, when you got out,
yes,
what mindset did you have to not let your past define who you were? Like, how do you move beyond what you just went through for the last 8 years? 6.5 served, the almost a year and a half in the warehouse. Like,
workhouse.
Workhouse. Sorry. What mindset do you have to move beyond your past, to move forward, not let your past define who you are?
Or
it was tough.
Or do you let that define yourself to move forward? What's the mindset in that way? You know what I mean? Is it you try to push it back, not let it define you, or do you let that build you up?
Statistically speaking, I should have been dead or back. And I say that, and I'm thankful for what my life is now because all my co-defendants mostly are back in prison or they're dead. I think there's only one left. So, like, statistically speaking, I should have been back already.
Yeah, but I got to argue, not knowing all the facts, I would assume that most of these individuals that you're talking about did not take the path you did.
No, I was the only one that took that path.
Yeah.
To answer your question, it's one of those things where for a while there, it was really hard and frustrating because everywhere it was frustrating for a couple of years where I would go to a job interview.
It's got to be tough.
No, it was tough. I would show up with a resume. I mean, and then I go through the whole interview. They're looking at my resume, my experience, and I don't hide nothing, good or bad. I put it out there, and they all love me. But they would tell me to my face, like, HR would have a field day with this. We can't hire you as bad as we want you. So I was doing a lot of construction. It was seasonal. And then I actually got to the point where winter came along and I couldn't do any more of that construction work. So everywhere I went, the doors are being slammed in my face. And which kind of goes back to Columbus has a lot of issues as far as kind of trying to help people get on the right track.
Okay.
So I kind of kept running into that. But, I got a strong family support. And they kept trying to help me out, making sure they try to put limits on, like who I was hanging out with, what I was doing. Because they were always worried that I was going to fall into that same element.
Well, yeah, because I imagine getting out of your situation, like, you have to choose a different circle.
Yes.
Like that circle becomes really small, and you have to be very particular about who is in that circle.
I'm gonna give you a good example. My father gave me a dog that it was a red-nosed pit. Mom, that was her name, Mama.
Okay.
And my sister couldn't have the dog anymore, so my old man's like, "Hey, you want this dog?" I said, like, "Sure." I remember I'm sitting on the front porch, smoking a cigar, drinking coffee, just enjoying all the noise and the ruckus, on my street.
Yeah.
Just being out. I loved it. And I didn't have to report. Like when I got out, it was a whole month before I got to report. So I didn't have to do nothing but just relax.
Huge dynamic shift.
Big time. Because it was wild going to the mall and being surrounded by people.
Yeah.
You got to reintegrate into society. And I remember I see this car pull up, surround sound, big rims, playing music. The guy rolls the window down. He's like, "Hey, are you Q?" Instantly, I'm like, "Oh shit!" Excuse me. I'm like, "Oh crap, who's this?"
Oh no, you can say shit.
Well,
say
come to find out, it was one of my old associates. Shows up with a bag full of money.
Yeah.
Oh,
20 grand. And he's like, "Here." I opened the bag. I said, "What's this for?" He's like, "Because I didn't snitch him out."
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Yep.
And he was like, "Whatever you need." And I remember looking at him. I was like, "Are we friends?" He goes, "Man, you're probably the only friend I have right now because I know you're a man of your word."
You take it?
No, actually, I didn't. I was like, "If we're friends, take the bag, keep it, do whatever you're going to do with it. But if we're friends, you stay away from me."
Wow.
I'm trying to get
That's
my life
powerful.
back together.
That's powerful.
Yeah, you're trying to get your life back together, and someone just offered you 20 grand. You turned it down.
Yeah.
But I think that.
But I also know.
I think that goes to the conviction that you had internally. Like,
Yes.
you're done with that.
Yeah.
You're
Because I
done
know
with
that
what it is
$20.
You know what it leads to.
Exactly.
You know what it
Yep.
leads to.
Exactly.
You accept that.
Because then
Now
he's going to
it's
ask
next
for a
time.
favor.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, 20 grand is a lot of money.
Oh yeah. Anyone in the audience not want 20 grand?
We have a Patreon page.
Yeah.
Anonymous.
I doubt you'll listen to a podcast.
There's a first for everything.
That's true. But I remember sitting back on the porch thinking like, "Whoa, what did I just do?" As he's driving away. I was like, "Man, that helped me get a car, get some clothes." But
Put food on the table?
Yeah, but
Put
you
food
learn
on the table.
You learn the dynamic of when you were saying earlier. I mean, I'm learning from you right now. I mean, we haven't had this type of conversation in the specific detail, but it's like you said earlier. It's that was why you didn't get out. Was you had this financial freedom in a sense because you were making so much money. So just from the outside, if you're looking at that part of that note of the story, it's like, all right. Associate probably had served time as well. Mm-hmm. Now you guys are both back out on the streets. He comes up to you.
No, actually, he never did.
All right, well.
That's why he always felt. He
That's why he wanted to give you the money because.
Bottom line, though, is
he felt
that.
like he was in debt to me.
But yeah, and I get that, and it's a nice sentiment. But at the same time, it's $20,000 cash that it's like, all right, so this is exactly what got you in that situation.
Exactly.
Well,
Right?
Let's face it, 20 grand is probably not worth the 6.5 years that it costs.
Certainly not.
Not one day.
No, not
All
at
right,
all.
so where do we go from here?
So I get out and do
travel down this
construction
path.
work.
Yeah.
It got to the point where
No one's hiring you. I mean, I worked in the moving and storage industry for the people that have listened before. Like, it's on there. It's because you're in people's homes, right?
Yeah, it's a liability.
You can't have if you have any felony, whether or not you have theft or any other related felony or whatever.
It doesn't
if you
matter.
have a felony, and our application said, have you been convicted of a felony in the last 7 years? Mm-hmm. People can say no if that's the truth, right? And if they do say no, we had that on there because of the way in Ohio, especially, it's written as far as the legal side of it. But even if you have a felony 15 years ago, if it's at all related, even if it's not related, it's still such a liability being in someone's home as an occupation, because that is reflective of now, much to what you were saying earlier. It's like the company you keep. So it's like if you hire this company and it's like they find out, and it could have gone well, but all of a sudden they find out that they had a convicted felon in their home.
Oh, yeah.
That's lights out for the company. That's not okay.
No, it's not okay.
Yeah, you've invited the strangers into your home, and you want to make sure that they are upstanding individuals.
Exactly.
And I'm not talking about personality.
No.
So where do we go? Construction's over.
All right, so it got to the point where the judicial system was like, a part of the deal is you have to stay employed. And I'm sitting there.
And most of your work's going to be under the table at that point.
How does that work? You have to stay unemployed, but yet people are not going to hire you because of your convictions.
Correct.
Like, how does that?
That
could be rhetorical. I mean, we don't
no,
have to go into it.
You work in the entertainment industry.
It goes back to
you have to find it. You have to make your own job.
Yes.
I feel.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
you're absolutely right. So, Violet, who's a good friend of mine, is like my little baby sister.
Okay.
She was like, "Hey, I know you don't want to work in the bar scene, but they need a door guy at Rachel's."
Yeah.
So I showed up, suited up with a resume.
As one would.
Yeah, and the gentleman that at that time ran that club, he hired me just because she brought me to him. Because at the time, while I was locked up, I think they were engaged maybe, but they dated. And
there's a personal connection.
Yeah, and she vouched for me. So he was like, "Hey, I'll give you a shot." Within a year and a half, 2 years later, I'm the GM.
Yeah, because you got that opportunity, and you were paid through payroll.
Yes.
So now you're.
Well, that's another thing too. Like my dad has a construction company. I couldn't work for him because the construction is always kind of the job that people say they're doing and they're making cash, but it's hard because there's so much cash in that industry.
Yeah.
So they were like, "You can't go work for your old man. You can't work for yourself." Because they're like, "You're smarter enough that you could."
Well, yeah, I mean, that's
get back out
things,
there and falsify paperwork and lie.
Same thing with being in the moving and storage industry. There's plenty of moving companies you could have worked for.
Correct. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and they would pay you just enough to get you through, and then the rest of it would be again under the table.
So while I was working there, I started hanging out at cigar shops, Tinderbox.
That's where
because
I
I
met you.
needed a way to relax. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to hang out. The last thing you want to do if you're in the club scene, bar scene, you don't want to hang out at another bar on your day off. You don't.
That's how I am. Well, cigars, and a lot of cigar employees, they want to go elsewhere. But for me, it's like on my day off, unless I come see you, which how often do I come see you? It's
never.
It's never. All right, calm down. One time you weren't there.
But we joked about that because
you rarely come in to see me, but
I go there, but I never see you. You're never really.
I never
there.
work.
No.
Yeah, you're right.
So, so that's how I kind of also got introduced into the cigar industry.
Yeah.
Because it became a hobby. It was something I liked to do. It didn't cost much.
Got a passion for it.
And I did that. And then around that same time, after 3 years working at Rachel's, I put my 2 weeks notice in. It was time for me to move on. There was a lot of stuff going on that I saw it coming.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get out the way.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that I still had a record. So I was like, hey, they're going to put the blame on somebody. It's going to be the minority with the felon.
Well, yeah. Or just
Yeah.
not taking away the minority part, but the felon.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You can be a white male.
Well, no, that's true. But
Felon
when I
stands
say
out
the
more.
minority, meaning I wasn't part of the clique.
Right.
I wasn't from Columbus.
You were still the new guy.
I was still the new guy. Absolutely right. So I left there, took my fiance with me because she was the head bartender.
That's right.
And that's where I met her at. And then she was working. I helped her get a job at the Moose Lodge. And that's another thing too. Like, I'm still proactive, with the Masons, with the Moose Lodge, with the Elk Lodge.
I was a Moose for 1 year.
1 year? Okay.
Never renewed it.
Never?
No.
I still keep mine.
I should have. It's like $30 a year.
35, I think now.
All right.
So,
it's expensive now.
Yeah.
30
well,
bucks.
on my way, there was a gentleman that used to come in there, John, who I knew from long before then. He was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a club. I want you to come work for me." And at the time, I was loyal to my bosses because they gave me that opportunity. And I'm the GM. I'm making good money. I just got off of papers because I had to do 5 years on papers. So
when you say that now, you're not accounted. Like, you don't have to.
Oh, no. I did the whole 5 years and I was done. Yeah. So then he bought Private Dancing.
Gentlemen's Club. Yeah.
On Hilliard, Trabue, and Hague. And he was like, "Hey, I know I could trust you. You're a good dude. You don't mess around." And he owned a plumbing company at the time. He's still involved in the plumbing industry.
Right.
But he's like, "I don't have time to hang out, run the club. I need somebody I could trust." And that's what I did. I ended up working there. I did that for almost 3 years, and then I left there because I was full-time at Governor's, because by then I was the manager.
Your timeline in the last 10 years, it's
compact.
It's so compact. I mean,
it's
I've known you for a while, and it's interesting because, like, I didn't know all the details obviously until tonight, and I like Nate said on the feed that I hope people are taking something from this when you listen to it. But I mean, for me, knowing someone fairly well, I'd say, I look at it as you in 44 years. Not even 44. It's in what?
Really start from
25?
Yeah, start from 18. So 20 or
27,
yeah.
26,
so 26 years.
26 years. The dynamic changes that have happened in 26 years, especially in the last 10. I mean, like, we've spent some time listening to the story of obviously what got you to the point of when you were released, but even after that, I mean, it's just boom, boom, boom. The whole part of the life topic, if you will, when we introduce the new beginnings, and a lot of times, like I said, it's interesting to me because the first thing is New Year's resolutions, and everyone's chiming in about that, but it's like when we say, "Oh, why wait, all that stuff, the New Year's resolutions, it's like this type of a story for me. It's when you have these opportunities being presented to yourself. My biggest takeaway so far, and I'm not trying to end your story by any means. I want you to continue, but I mean, mid-story takeaway for me is when I myself have gone through some life-altering things. It's like I said earlier. It's I let things pile up to a point where I should have made a change. And if I would have made that change, it may not have been as dramatic. Uh-huh. Where you're looking at it as now, based on your experience prior to all of this, and when you're going through those tribulations and everything else, it's something that now when you're presented with opportunities, when you're presented with the fact that you are. I assume that you had some feelings of being complacent in what you were doing.
Yes.
But it's also the fact that there's better things out there. There's things you should grab tightly to.
Yes.
As well, people. But and you're about to say something.
Yeah, I was.
But I mean, to me, and please, grab onto that in your mind real quick. But it's the biggest thing that I've taken from it is, as far as a lesson for me, is the fact that you want to actually stay active.
Yes.
stay active in the fact that when you're looking at these things that are going on in your life, you find out what's important. You said you lost focus. So focus on the things that are important.
Yes.
Focus on the things that you think that you can do better, and also focus on the things that when they're not going the way you think they should be going for your life, you gravitate towards things that can be more impactful.
Exactly.
Or that you can impact in a more powerful way.
Okay, so all right, screw it. All right, so
Get after it.
no. There's a few things I've learned about myself. But I had to learn.
Welcome to the podcast.
I had to learn the hard way. I had to really learn the hard way. So, like, I'm gonna give you an example. It got to the point in my life where I realized there was a lot of opportunities, even in the military, side jobs, where people were wanting me to succeed, and it took after I got out to realize how much of a pussy I was.
Hindsight, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why. People talk a lot about, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But when it comes down to it, people are afraid to take that step.
I'm one of those people.
No. So what I learned the hard way
a lot of
is,
people out there like that.
after 6.5 years being locked up, what the fuck I got to lose?
Different level of motivation at that
Yeah,
point.
but what do I got to lose?
Nothing.
Okay, at least I can say I tried. I sucked at it, but I tried. I think one of the worst things that people experience in life, oh man, I should have, could have. That's a real thing. People like go mental over that, and
They get frozen. They get stuck.
Yeah, they do. And to me, it's like, you know what? I'm done being scared. I mean, worst case scenario, it don't work out. At least I tried, you know. And to me, that's my approach in life now.
But knowing you also weigh the options of it, you know what I mean? Before you
Correct.
take a step. That's what you alluded earlier. I think it was in part one of the podcast, was that like, you and I had a lot of heart-to-hearts where even getting in the cigar industry, you were
hesitant.
You were hesitant, but because it was...
That's the thing Curtis gets on me about now, Curtis and Darren.
Yeah. So Curtis and...
Darren.
They
own Governors.
They own
and
the
Barclays.
business that you're full-fledged... That's the career currently.
Correct.
Yeah.
He gets on me. They get on me all the time. They're like, why aren't you doing the podcast? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Because they see I love it, but I'm still kind of hesitant. But lately, I've got to the point where it's like, I might as well. I mean, this is my life now. I'm 44 years old. I enjoy it. I make money. I get good. I mean, I make decent money from selling cigars. I'm lucky because how many people actually get to go to work and do what they like and make money?
Yeah. Could you make more money? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Are you happy with it?
no.
No, not with the extra money. Are you happy with what you're doing for the money you're making? Yes. Can you grow it?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And it's giving me opportunities. I mean, right now, my father and I were talking about this. I got a house I've been working on. I'm dragging my feet on it, but now I'm thinking about buying some more properties, trying to buy the properties because now he's liquidating because he's about to retire for health reasons.
Yeah.
And what he was trying to get me to do a long time ago, now I'm starting to do it. But he has the foresight or the hindsight to see the gentrification going in my community, the changes. I mean, he sees all that because he's very smart. But
He's got to be happy with where you're at right now.
No. I mean, he's happy.
No?
Oh, no. By now, I should have owned 20 units.
I'm saying compared to...
Oh, no, he's thankful.
Yeah.
You know, we had a father-to-son talk the last couple of days, and
Yeah.
I was unaware of the stress I was causing by going back to the bar scene recently.
Oh, yeah.
I was unaware, like, how bad it was. And he made it quite clear to me. He's like, your mom doesn't sleep. You know, the liability, the danger of it. Is it worth the money? You don't own, you know, there was a lot of things. And mind you, John, who owns the club,
right,
solid dude. Solid. I mean, solid. But he's a businessman. And at the end of the day, the opportunity's there, but I can't give up the cigar industry to focus on that.
And vice versa.
Yeah, so it's not fair to him and it's not fair to me. And the stress that it's causing, so I decided to walk away.
That was last night. Mm-hmm. Interesting on the timing of your father being in the hospital.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say life has a way of working things out if your eyes are open.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes when things are going well for us, we tend to not look at how things can be better. Because
what's around the corner.
Yeah, because things are going well. Why do I need to rock the boat? Why do I need to change things? Like, why do I need to do something different? I'm good where things are. Also, sometimes if a change is forced upon your life, whether it be job, relationship, whatever it is, if something's forced on your life, I think sometimes we kind of narrow down what we can do from there, because we're like, oh crap, like this just happened. Like let's say you lost a job. Like, oh crap, I lost a job. I need to do something. Mm-hmm. Like I need to just do something to make money. But if when things were going well and you had a job, you actually were looking for something better, like you had more opportunity.
Correct.
You would have had more chances to do something that you really wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And now it's just I went from doing what I wanted to do. Now I have to do what I have to do.
Exactly.
So when you're talking about the timing of things or opportunity, like just because things are going well doesn't mean you can't start something new.
Exactly.
There's not but I'm not going to disagree with you. But there's some times where I think about it. And there's been experiences in my life that it was one of those things where there are times in people's lives. It doesn't matter what the venue is, right, or the topic. Yeah. But if things are going well, I don't want it to be a slippery slope for people that you're always looking for something better, because there's a time where if things are going well for yourself, I want to make more money. I want to be happier in this relationship. You know what I mean? Like personal relationships. It's like they're not making enough money, or we're not as intimate as we should be, or we fight too often, or something like that. I think relationships are probably the easier go-to for me in a sense, because I was at a job for 10, 12 years, and then now I'm at a job for 7 years, and it's like those are some of the more and I had stable relationships, but it's like those are those things that it's easier to stay loyal to a job sometimes than it is to a person, because there's less emotion.
Correct.
But there are times where it's like you're in a job or you're in a career and you're like, yeah, I can make a move, but there is a legitimate for me at least, and I don't know about anyone out there listening, but or you guys, that if you make that move, there's the chance, and it could be likely, that yes, at first it's great, but 12 months. 24 months.
I know where you're going, and I went through it.
No, 24 months. So I dealt with this with, when I was post-divorce, and I was renting a house. It was literally in this same neighborhood, Q. I don't think you ever came over to the old house. It's literally a street over.
No.
And I had this sweet rental agreement post-divorce that I was renting a 3-bedroom house with a 2-car garage, and it was one of those things that it was like, all right, so it's $950, $1,000 a month in Columbus, Ohio, in an okay area. Like this is a decent area.
Yeah, it's a nice area.
You know what I mean? So then I started like looking with a former roommate, 2 roommates ago, and they were looking at it. It was like, hey, let's move down to like Grandview. Let's move down. Let's a more trendier part for people that aren't part of Columbus. Let's do this, because he was single and he was like wanting to like kind of go out. We could walk to bars. We could do all this stuff.
Like short.
And I thought about it, and this is the way my mind thinks about a lot of things. And this was more of a practical thing where there's no emotion there. It's literally like, all right, so if I rent a place with you with a 12-month lease, at the end of 12 months, are we going to renew the lease, or are you going to want to go somewhere else? You get in a relationship, or you get another job, and you're going to move. And he ended up moving to Brooklyn and then L.A. So
your roommate?
My former roommate.
Okay.
Yeah, two not including Liz, two guy roommates ago. It's one of those things where I was hesitant, because I'm like, you move away. And at the end of that, now I'm by myself again, and now I don't have this house. I don't have that security. I don't have that
You have
happiness.
nothing to fall back on
Well, I don't have the happiness that I'm
Yes.
currently okay with.
that you're used to, conditioned
Now,
to.
yeah, so now I'm going to be a year later, and depending on where my life is, I might have to like rent an apartment for $600 a month and be fucking miserable because I don't have a garage anymore. I don't have this. I don't have that. So it's the same thing with jobs. Same thing with like relationships. I mean, I don't want to like say pump the brakes on stuff, but I also don't want to like just piss into the wind and be like, all right, whatever it is I want to do. That's what I like about you, Q, being on this episode is that those were the conversations that we had. That
Yes.
you've learned all this stuff. So anyone listening out there, I remember those conversations. That's what I equate it to is that when you get down to the point, you're like, I've got this opportunity, and I don't know about it.
Yes.
Like this is, then you start asking questions. Now, for me, it's like I could have done the same thing all over again. I could have like done my work for 3 months and really try to find a place. Maybe I wouldn't have been as happy, but it's like, all right, so now it's a stepping stone back into that situation. And there's so many other factors. Same thing with a job. Like for you, it's like, if the cigar industry didn't work out, if you working for, as a manager for governors, first of all, you didn't realize that would branch off into now you're managing in a sense, like you're a regional manager in the same town.
Yeah, that's what. Actually, it's funny you say that. That's
It
what
grew.
they're actually grooming me for. They want me to like.
Well, and
Because
from what I
they-
understand, from what you're saying, you kind of already are. I mean, you guys are in that infancy stage of it. But if it didn't work out, you didn't like it, you would have just done something else.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You would have
So
not been as happy with taking another step back at 43, 44 years old. But it was worth the gamble. That's the new beginning.
I look at it as I'll never forget being with another grown man in a metal bunk bed in a 6.5 or 6x4 cubicle. I was like,
You
dude,
got to explain that.
okay. So I was lucky enough that when I went to CRC, they had what they call pods. And there's 200. There's 100 on the first floor and 100 on the second floor, the top tier.
Yeah.
2 tiers.
Yeah.
So I was lucky because I actually got to have a bunk bed style. It's made out of a metal rack,
Yeah.
2 metal cabinets, and you got a little plastic locker. That's your locker.
Yeah.
Your whole life is in this plastic container.
Is this in the
At CRC.
CRC? Is that the work?
Correctional.
Correctional
Oh, sorry,
reception.
yeah. So you're
center.
actually in the
At Pickaway.
prison, yeah.
In prison.
Okay.
So I was lucky because at other parent institution, there's 200 to 400 people. The lights are turned on 24/7. It's like 100 in a row, 100 in a row, and there's walls dividing
Bays.
people. Bays. But
Those jails or prisons?
those are prisons.
Really?
Jail's worse here in Columbus.
Jails are worse, yeah. In
But-
Ohio, yeah.
In Ohio. But to me, every day, that's in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, stop your bitching. You could be back there. So
Yeah.
that's what also kept me when I got out, when I was frustrated, the doors being slammed in my face. And and it's funny because how life is, because I realized the hard way, I learned the hard way in life that there's a lot I could tolerate and do that others can't do. But at the back of my mind, it's like the hardest thing for me was 2 things. My daughter grew up. We talked about this. Me and my daughter, we talk a lot now. And the one thing that she stated is that, the one thing that we talked about all the time is that till
How old's
this
your
day,
daughter?
she's 25. The one thing that we talk about recently is that she had a resentment for me for a long time because while I was in the military, I was always traveling. And being a single parent, there was no way I could have custody of my daughter because I was always in the field, exercise on TDY deployments. So she knew of me when I was there. We communicated, but I wasn't really there. So there was a time period where I felt like I should have been there for her. And if I was there, knowing me, her life would have been different. And I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing because she decided to have kids at a young age.
Right.
I have 2 beautiful granddaughters I'm thankful for. But in my mind, it's like there's no way I could do this to my grandkids or my daughter going back or my mom. Because, 6.5 years in the joint was tough. But for me, my personality, It wasn't tough. It was tough growing up in the military, traveling, always on the go. And all of a sudden, you're in one place. That was punishment. It wasn't the physical everyday going through the activities. It was.
Yeah, in your mindset, you earned that sentence.
Oh, I did.
You earned the sentence, but it was like I can see that. I can see that based on the story is that you're looking at it as like I can't go anywhere.
Correct. You're being told when to shit, when to piss, when to eat, when to get up, when to sleep, count time. I mean, day in, day out. And that's why I mentioned earlier about do the time, don't let the time do you. Because there are people who mentally are not strong enough. And,
majority of people.
I would say majority.
I know, I'm saying majority of people that have never served time would not be able to handle it. They'd be in that other group.
The other group.
They'd be in the other group where, and I think I'd probably be in that same group where it's like you go not insane. I'm not saying that you would just get to that point where it's like you have no control over your life anymore.
Correct.
And in today's day and age, right, where that's all it is. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah, the whole entitlement. I'm gonna do what I want right now.
Out the window.
Out the window. But people don't think about the repercussion. They don't think about a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, what they're posting, what they're doing. Because they're taking it for granted. But until it's taken away, then you're like, oh,
All right, at this point, Nate, what are we at on the second one there?
We're at 2.5. 240.
Total.
Yeah, 240 on the recorded time and 250 on the video.
Okay.
What I want to say at this point is I want to open it up to the closing remarks.
Okay.
And so we try to stay to some time barrier, if you will. But with that, I will introduce once again for the part 2 people out there, and I want to thank.
There's a part 2 to this.
This is part 2.
I know.
We're not doing a part 3 tonight, but Q, hopefully you want to come back.
Oh, anytime.
We'll smoke your groovy blue cigars. But I want to say
I'll bring you some Ninja Gurkhas.
Ninja Gurkha. Actually, that was not their worst.
No, I actually enjoy it.
I'm actually. We'll do next time you're on. We're gonna do your Tatiana's, and I'll bring my favorite Gurkha, and we'll talk about.
Wait a minute. What's your favorite Gurkha?
You'll find
Gurkha
out
Reserve?
next time you come back.
You look like a Gurkha Reserve.
I look like a lot of things. What I want to say, so I want to thank our sponsors to this before we get into the closing remarks. Please don't tune out if you guys are on the Facebook Live because we're doing sponsors. There's a little bit more to it. But Tinderbox at Easton, thank you. I enjoyed the La Aurora 115.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So Brian and all the guys at the Tinderbox, including a couple guys in the garage tonight, thank you very much for supporting the podcast. Altadis USA, I was talking to Josh Bentley today. Josh, thank you very much for pushing. And Paul Waller, thank you for believing us from day one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Paul was the one that actually he approached me about sponsorship when we were doing this. So thank you, Paul. I'll be talking to you in the near future for the Romeo Julieta 1875 bully size. And then also there's a BS Silver that I'm still looking at that Q's going to smoke at some point. I'm going to have to grab one first thing tomorrow. It's a fantastic cigar. Thank you, Eric Espinosa and Hector, for working with us.
That's my boy, man.
Yeah, he's everyone's boy. He's everyone's bro. And then also, thank you, Q, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Nate, thank you for being here, as always. Yeah. Good luck with the car situation. Dustin, happy birthday. Dustin Bovey, hope you feel better. Happy birthday. And then also Jake Sanders, who's been a part of this podcast from the very beginning. Talk about new beginnings. He is going to be in Indianapolis going forward, doing the Rocky Patel. I'm sorry,
Burn by Rocky Patel.
Q was there the night before. He got to see the place before I did. We'll talk about it a little bit more. We've posted a couple pictures on the community page. We've posted on the Bourbon and BS podcast page. But Jake's going to kill it out there. This place, if you're in Indianapolis, if you're listening in Indianapolis, if you're traveling out there, if you're stopping through for, I know we had the big Ten championship game out there. I got to tell you, this place is gorgeous. Jake's going to kill it. The staff so far is amazing. I know Q got a chance
small input. Jake, the whole time we were there, was in the humidor hustling his ass off.
Yeah.
I mean, no, seriously. The whole time we were there,
I believe it.
The few times I looked out, he was talking to Rocky or he was talking to Nish, and he was right back in the humidor. It was funny because I remember thinking like, man, he's really trying to impress somebody. But the other reps got their ass chewed out.
Right from Rocky?
No, Nish. Nish was like, Q,
I can believe that.
No, Nish was like, Q, you want a job? I was like, what do you want me to do? He's like, come work for us. I'm like, I'm good. He was like, no, I'm serious. Because this guy over here doesn't want to sell a box. Because Nish, within 1 hour.
Jake or some of the other guys?
Other guys.
Yeah.
Nish, within 1 hour, sold 3 boxes. He said, how is it? This is my party. I'm here just to turn it up. I sold boxes.
Nish, that's because it's your party.
Yeah. Well, it's always a party with Nish.
I know. Well,
as soon as he walked in, we knew he was there.
Name's on it, but I'm saying your last name is Patel.
Well, I knew Nish was there because the lights were dimmed and the music got cranked up. Yeah. And Rocky was exiting.
So Rocky was there the whole time. I gotta say this to those guys out there.
It's a beautiful location.
It's beautiful.
And Jake did a great job.
Yeah.
A great job.
Day 2, when we were there on Thursday night, it was maybe a little less tense like that. You know what I mean? But all I got to say is I told Rocky Patel before we get into the closing remarks, I'm not trying to delay this at all, but, Q, we haven't talked about it. The one thing I told Rocky Patel, and he was the first person I saw when I walked in the door, and all he talked about, first thing, he's like...
Smoking tent?
Yeah, he's like, hey, we're going to kill it in March. Like, I can't wait. So Rocky himself's going to be at our smoking tent event. Nice. I don't know if I told you.
No, I didn't know that.
Then I got Nish being... kind of bitter. Actually, he's like, hey, we're looking forward to this next year. I was like, yeah, I'm so happy that Rocky's going to be there. He's like, oh, is he? And I was like, oh, you didn't know? And he's like, oh, yeah, allegedly he'll be there. I'm sure he'll be there. I was like, well, I'd still love to have you out. He's like, yeah, set it up. We'll get Nish out here this year. So
I'll be there.
But I told Rocky, I said, this is the first time walking in the doors out here in Indianapolis. I want to give a little plug out to Burn by Rocky Patel. That I said to Rocky, I said, I'm actually happy about the Ohio laws about the 80-20 rule.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks at me and he's like, oh, why? And I said, because you're not coming to Columbus with a Burn lounge. And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, we can't do it. I was like, yeah, exactly. Thank you very much, because I don't want to compete with you in Columbus, Ohio, because I think you'd absolutely kill it. Talking to Nick Mitchell, their national sales manager, he's like, I think Columbus, we would actually kill it. I was like, you absolutely would kill it in Columbus.
Would kill us. Absolutely.
They would kill
If
us.
you guys are not in the Columbus market, you're not in Ohio, it's just such a fun area, contrary to outsiders. But
this is the one thing I did notice
about
Ohio, especially Columbus. We're one of the few cities where we all get along.
That's exactly my point.
I mean, we do. Like, we support you guys. We support everybody as much as possible. So we went to that Eric Espinosa event.
You went to the Rocky one?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man. It's your event. But
so many people there. Sorry, Q.
Yeah.
No, you did.
No, we showed up. It was myself, Curtis. We brought Dwayne from the Monte Cristo. And we brought Tanya from Lane.
Well, Tanya is one of our regulars. She's a locker member.
But that's what I'm saying. But
she's an employee of you guys.
And we had, was Jerry? No, Jerry wasn't.
No, that was it.
That's right.
But at the end of the night, where did we end up all together?
Yeah, because we were talking, and I was like, yeah, we're going to go see Rocky at the House of Cigars South. Eric's like, he's in town? Called him up. But it was cool because when we got down there was Pipes and Pleasure. There were other cigar shops supporting House of Cigars South.
Yeah. And I couldn't make it down before the event ended, but Eric Espinosa pulled the friend thing where he's like, bro, you want to go? And I was like, I don't know, man. It's Thursday night. Yeah, he's like,
bro.
I'll drive. We'll one drink and we're gone. And I'm like,
but that was a good night.
It was
Lincoln
a great
Social
night.
Club took care of us, got us that little table.
Well, I want to say this to the community out there is that this is another thing it's all about, and we've kind of sidetracked from closing remarks. We'll get back on that here. I've enjoyed this conversation clearly, but that night was one of those things that I told Jake afterwards because he was at the event, obviously, you know, and Aaron Sagai was there, and we rode down with Eric Espinosa, and we hung out. We were all chatting and everything else. You and Curtis were there, and Avi was there, and it was one of those things where Jake had already applied to this position that he was invited to apply for through the community and through his hard work. And it was interesting to me because when we sat down, I don't know if Rocky knew who Jake was, but at the end of the day, we all hang out together because like what you're talking about, Q, is that it's all about support. It's all about including people that are like-minded, including people that are wanting to support the community. And when it comes down to it, it clearly was something where if Rocky didn't know who Jake Sanders was before that night,
he knew who it was that night.
When
he kept looking at you and Jake, when he was telling the stories. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember looking at Curtis, and Curtis was like, "Man, he's really focused on that end."
Yeah,
and it was because you were. I noticed how you talk.
We talked about it. Yeah,
the approach. The right questions, and he was so excited telling the stories about...
It's about having a conversation.
Yeah.
And so it's about knowing people that it's like who you know type thing. So with Jake, and congratulations again. I'm not saying that was a big part of you getting hired, but what I will say is that if Rocky didn't know who Jake was before that night, and he was going through the channels, when he saw Jake as the one that was hired,
he was excited.
He knew Jake.
Awesome.
It's a familiar face.
Yes.
All right, so what's going on over here?
I think my wife's at the front door, but she doesn't know she's at the right door.
The boss is here.
I was going to have Sean go to the front door and let her in.
But we always talk about that. Like, it's a small community. You got, 2 tender boxes? You got Governors, both Barclays, Pipes and Pleasure, Burning Leaf.
There's like a dozen cigar shops in the Central Ohio
But we
area.
all... That's the thing about Tinderbox. It was never like, oh, you work for them or you go over there. It was never about that. It's how I carried myself and people accepted it.
Oh, absolutely.
But at first, people were hesitant because they were unaware,
What I like about the Tinderbox at Easton is that, and this is, I think, a lot of people out there that smoke cigars or have, somehow there's always a hub.
Yes.
And our sponsor, Tinderbox at Easton, and Brian Joyce, who's worked for 20 years doing this, I feel like we're all based out of a certain location that has expanded, and there's enough success out there that it's expanded to a point that once all the dust settles, everyone can be successful, and everyone can start. And if I want to bring in the new beginnings part, we got Amar out there, Royal Cigar. He's on the west side, so if you're not in the Columbus area, there's a great shop, Royal Cigar Lounge. They're over by the casino here in Columbus, and now, like every Saturday, he's coming in himself. Now he's parking his very nice car outside that says Royal Cigar. I don't know if that's a ulterior motive.
Whichever
the
cigar.
Mercedes, the Porsche.
Well,
the Lamborghini.
He's got the Lamborghini. He's
No,
got the Ferrari.
it's not that. It's not that. I love Amar, and I actually invited him. He's now a part of the Bourbon and BS community page. So I'm just saying, to your point, it's a great community, and the bourbon community is a great thing as well. And there's a lot of networks that once you get older, that this is your social network.
Correct.
You can rely on them. Nate, closing remarks on New Beginnings. Let's close this out here.
Well, as I get into it, I want to bring up a comment from Ryan Jones that we talked about last week on the podcast. Ryan said, Q is an inspiration of anyone that has traveled down some bumpy roads and dealt with hard times. Good stuff, Q.
Thank you.
So, how
about them Buckeyes?
And then he said, how about them Buckeyes?
So if Brian's okay with it, I'm going to have Q sign this tin sign so we still have it here.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we still need to see
we have a sign back here.
Okay, cool.
Ryan, if you're still watching, I know we have less people watching this late in the evening, but I do want to say that we Miguel from Crowned Heads, we do have, based on last week's podcast, that we want to reach out to Ryan and his family and best wishes to your daughter.
Yeah.
We've got a box of cigars, limited edition, full court press, Crowned Heads, CHCs that are ready to be shipped out. So I am still waiting on it. AJ has a sample of whiskey for you as well, so we'll get it out to you here shortly, probably early next week. So sorry, Ryan, to keep you waiting, but got that tin sign that we signed last week, and Miguel delivered through some amazing cigars. I mean, it's way above and beyond what I thought. So we got a full box of cigars coming to you. And then also AJ, who was on the podcast last week, wanted to donate a sample of a whiskey that he brought back. So we'll get it all shipped out to you here shortly in the next probably 6-7 days. Bear with us. It's the Christmas season in retail. So God bless you and your family.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ryan, for tuning in. For my closing remarks, there's a reason why earlier in the podcast, or earlier in the second section of the podcast, I brought up what kind of mindset you have to not let your past define who you are. Because when people come up to you and they ask, like, hey, what do you do? No one answers that question saying who they used to be. No one answers that question what they used to do. Like, if someone sits there and they come up to me and they say, hey, what do you do for a living? I don't answer the question with, oh, I used to work at Patel. No, I answer the question with who I work for now.
Right.
If someone says, oh, what cigar shop do you work at? I don't answer it with, oh, I used to work at this cigar shop.
Yeah. Right.
I say where I am now. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes into when we're talking about new beginnings, like, that's who you are now. Like, you don't, your past can drive you to where you are now. It can, help guide you, or, be something to steer clear of.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're going, when you're trying to, be something else, the past is part of who you are, but it doesn't have to define who you are.
That's true.
So, Q, I absolutely thank you for being on and sharing your story. There is a lot of this story that I didn't know about you, and I've worked in the cigar industry here in Central Ohio for 7.5 years.
Yeah.
I've known you for quite a while.
I met you the first time at Governor's.
Yeah, that's right.
You were with your wife hanging out at in the fire, our movie room with the fire pit.
Yes, yes, where the fireplace. That. Yeah. So I've known. I mean, we've known each other.
Cheers to Jess.
So I've known you. I've known you for a while, and there's a lot of stuff that you shared tonight that I did not know about you. There are some people out there that, if they heard you say, everything that you've been through, everything that you've experienced, they may look at you negatively.
Because I get that a lot.
I get it.
I get
not,
both. I get,
not like this.
I actually get both sides.
But no, what I'm saying is, I didn't know that you had done time. I didn't know the stuff that you had been involved in previously. And I have to say, because of what you've gone through, I know you as who you are now. I don't look at you in what you used to be. But because of, so I don't throw away what you went through. I don't throw away what you did, what you used to be. But because of the fact that you went through all of that and you are the man that you are today, I have a much more deeper respect for who you are, because you did not let your past define who you are. You did not stay with that. Like, you bettered yourself. And I think that is an incredible inspiration to anyone that is listening to this.
Appreciate that.
Because you weren't satisfied with who you were.
No.
You have made efforts to become who you are today. You are still making efforts to be better than you used to be.
Oh yeah.
And that is just an absolute. I have the utmost respect.
Appreciate that
for what you've done to not to not be defined by who you are. Like, no one looks at you and says, "Oh yeah, Q, he's the guy that did this. It's like, no, this is Q, the guy that manages a cigar shop, 3 cigar shops, and is a great, upstanding individual as I know him right now. So my sum is, don't let what you used to do. Don't let your failures of the past be the title and the description of who you are. Yes, you can learn from them. You can use those to motivate you in a certain direction, but that does not define who you are. You can choose any day to make a new beginning, to change who you are.
No, you're absolutely right.
Q, what do you got for closing remarks? And thank you again.
Closing remarks.
Summary, something new, whatever you want to leave.
Okay.
All the listeners.
I appreciate that, what you said, man. A lot.
Talking to the mic.
Sorry. Okay, so moving forward is hard for people because they want to think about the past. They want to think about what they had and what they lost. And it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about jobs, relationships, lost family members. You're right in that sense that it starts today. I am who I am now because within, like you said, a short period of time, I went through a lot. But at the end of the day, it was kind of like, okay, I'm here now. I know who I was, but that's not who I want to be anymore. So
right.
That's why I strive so hard, and that's what motivates me. Because at the end of the day, I was selfish. I was thinking about what I wanted, what I thought I wanted, what I could have been, and where I was going. But the truth is, there was a lot of people who I was unaware of looked up to me, and who...
Do you know that now?
What's that?
Who looks up to you?
Back then?
Now? Do you know that now?
I'm confused.
Do you know who looked up to you then, and do you know who looks up to you now?
I have an idea because I see people's response, the way they treat me, opportunities that are opened.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot. I mean, Justin Hannes gave me that opportunity.
Yeah.
Diab, Amira, Curtis, Darren. I mean, there's a list. One of the best feelings I have, or I've had it, when I run into somebody in the past, and the first thing they do is walk up, give me a hug. Like, man, I'm proud of you. I'm like, why? They're like, you were a good guy back then. You were just going the wrong direction. But you didn't fall back.
Right.
And it's hard. When you were talking about doors being shut in my face, it was so easy to make a call and go back to that old way. But at the same time, it's like, it's not about me. It's my daughter, my mom, my dad, my sister, my brothers, all my nieces, my cousins. I mean, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm from a large family.
Right.
But I try to explain to people, it's like, you can't look back. You got to move forward. It made me who I am. I'm thankful for it. There was people that got hurt in the process, but I'm not going to do that again. But that's why I work so hard. Like, I got a good friend of mine, Kenneth Seeley. He comes up to Tinderbox every once in a while.
Ken.
He drives a white Hellcat military. He just asked me if I wanted to come work for him as a car salesman.
You'd be good at that,
on
too.
Hudson. I mean, there's so many opportunities all the time, and I feel like I just got to keep moving forward. Because at the end of the day, if you die right now, you can't take any of the shit with you.
That's right.
You can't take nothing with you. So I got granddaughters. So right now, my mindset is trying to leave something behind. To my grandkids, to my daughter, to whoever. I mean, another thing, my fiance, she knew from the beginning my history.
Right.
She didn't care.
How long you guys been together?
On and off, 9 years. 9 years now.
That's great.
Yeah.
And you were open about that.
I
Yeah.
was open. Her mom, I call her mom. I love her to death. From the first day we started talking, the first day, she asked me about who I was, and I told her. She gave me a hug. She was like, hey, if you got any problems, you come and tell me.
Yeah.
But
That's great.
and because she knew the love I had for the family, who I was. She saw it.
You're a good man.
Appreciate that. But, yeah, I mean, that's my close. I mean, I wish people stop worrying about the past. If they're going to make a change, start right now. You're not guaranteed anything tomorrow. Nothing's guaranteed.
No, it's powerful stuff. I I said it earlier. I mean, it's Nate. You framed it. I'm not saying I'm disagreeing with you. It's no,
disagreeing.
No, because Q, you actually said a bit of the same thing. It's
even you. How many times you were like, "Bro, if you got any questions, call me. Come
right.
and talk to me."
Yeah, no,
I didn't even know you that much, but like from the first day,
yeah,
I was
a little forward, but
you welcomed me from that day. I mean, no, Brian, Big Ron,
yeah.
all those guys. Every time I came in there, hey, you need anything? You good?
I will say this, and maybe it's a semantics thing, but I will say, in contrary to some of the stuff you guys are saying, is let the past define you. I think that the thing about when people are trying to move forward with their lives, and we've talked about a lot of times where it's when you're in a current situation, with the hand in your face thing. Q, you've listened to some of the podcasts, but my big thing is always when you're in a situation, you can't focus on anything when the situation or the hand is in your face.
Exactly.
So there's an effort there to move it out, so you can focus on the situation, which is your hand, and you can focus on everything else in your life. I look at it as that you should let your past define you, because that's what brought you to today. So your story tonight actually inspired me, and I hope it inspired some other people out there. And this is, again, part 2 of the podcast. I mean, this is different than the first part, clearly. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those, Sean says, hug it out, guys.
Yeah, I'm fighting back. I've been fighting back tears for the last 5 minutes.
Well, that makes...
Actually, I was fighting it back when you were talking about me.
See, I started something last week, Sean.
No, seriously, like.
No, because when Q talked about tomorrow's not guaranteed, I looked at Sean. Sean was on last week, and the story that he told. Oh my God!
So it furthers my point that let the past define you.
It's part of who you are. That's
what I'm saying. Is that, and I'm not saying that either of you two said that, like, avoid the past and move on. Don't let it define you, because with Q, with your story, is that you've had some struggles, but the military time, your childhood, even serving time and coming out of that, is that has framed you to a point that you are the person you are today. Yeah. So with job losses, job gains, with your relationships, good and bad, over the past, is that embrace it. That's the way I look at it, is that you want to embrace these times in your life, because now I'm looking at my next birthday, I'll be 40 years old. Mm-hmm. And that used to seem old. I mean, you're older than 40.
I'm 44.
You're 44, and Sean, you're in the audience. You look like
you look
great.
Like
you look great for 60. And
would you say 64?
No, I'm just saying, it's like, I look at it as that the past should frame you, and you should embrace it, so that you don't repeat it. You learn from it.
Yes,
no, absolutely right. So you learn from it. So that's what I've learned from your story tonight, Q. Is in part 2 of this podcast, is that I've learned a lot from it. Is that you've taken every opportunity going forward from 18 and on. Mm-hmm. That you've actually embraced every step, and you've gone full-fledged into it, even the bad parts, if you will. You know Correct. What I mean? Like, you went full blow into it, and you learned everything about it.
It kind of goes back to when you were asking me about, one of you two was up, why I don't drink. I've learned the hard way that is something I have to cut out.
So you embrace that path.
I embraced it.
It's still a part of who you are, but
it helped mold me, but it's not constraining me.
Yeah, so that's I think that's my biggest aspect. I'm going to narrow it down to close this podcast out. Is
Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes, because
Steve
we're old.
Notes.
Yeah, who the fuck is this Cliff guy?
He likes yellow and black.
Steeler fan.
Raiders.
I really look at it as.
Oh, you don't like Raiders?
No. Q, I think that you should have inspired people that have listened to this episode that you should absolutely go all in. But But what you've
relationship.
But what you've learned later in life is that you are hesitant. You ask more questions.
Yes.
At the time when you went through your
I was
tribulations,
young.
You were young, but I'm saying
you think you know everything, but you don't know shit.
Well, and at that point,
hey, it's funny because you hear that from our elders growing up. Slow down, enjoy life, and slow down because soon you're going to be old. And it's funny because my father's in the hospital, and I remember yesterday looking at him and thinking. I remember yesterday looking at him, and this is a guy that, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this story.
Yeah.
It's really short.
You're fine.
He passed out at the hospital in VA seeing his doctor because he kept forcing stones. Okay?
Kidney stones?
Kidney stones.
Yeah.
Because he...
Worst pain.
Yeah. Well, when my dad was in his early 20s, they gutted him from his stomach to his back in Germany because technology is not like what it is now. They just open you up, take the kidneys out, close it. Yeah.
Just a few.
But he always had that problem. And my dad is hardcore. And I remember him talking like nonchalant. Oh, yeah, I've been bleeding for a while. I've been pushing out these stones. And I'm like, are you serious? And I remember him, he was sick and passed out. And the doctor was like, the average man would have been crying like a baby, would have been here a long time ago. And here I am seeing him in his bed.
Yeah.
And he's got this calmness about him. But there's also this weak side of him that I'm looking at.
Cry over there.
And I remember, looking at, that's why I'm looking this way. I remember looking at him thinking, this can't be the same man. But then the reality hits. I'm 44 years old. He's in his 60s.
Yeah.
We're getting old. And it's funny because I remember talking to my dad this morning after the procedure. I'm like, man, I can't believe it's been 10 years now. And there's times I feel like I haven't done anything. But then when I look back at it, it's like, shit, I've done a lot in 10 years.
You can listen back to this podcast episode tonight and you can revisit.
No, I'm good.
No, I'm saying, you can revisit
I'm
your side of it. Because when you're telling your story, you don't always realize what you've gone through.
No, you're absolutely right.
So it's other people talking about it or telling you, or you listen to part 2 of this podcast, and I encourage you, Q, to listen back, especially to part 2, and listen to what you said.
Can I get the audio?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Sweet.
It'll be on Facebook.
I don't like to be on Facebook.
It's on iTunes. It's on Overcast. It's on Spotify. It's on iHeartRadio. It's on everything else. I want to leave everyone with this remark, and not as profound as I'm making it sound right now, as I'm ashing my cigar and doing the whole power move and all that stuff, but
lowering the voice.
That's right.
No, he's going to put
Steve
it in his
thinks he's slick.
No, he's going to do the Dino power move and put
it would have
in
been
his
a power
mouth,
move if he had
relight it, and then he's going to talk.
I'll say one thing, that Q showed up with a gray sweater tonight.
I was going to bring that up.
And I had to change my sweater because I had a gray sweater on.
I'm going to tell you a funny story. When I got this sweater, no, a good friend of mine, Rachel, bought this. No, this Rachel helped me pick the sweater out.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that
Your
at the time
fiance.
until I got, a good friend of mine. She helped me pick it out.
Okay.
Because I never shopped at Hollister. So I was like, oh, all right, that's cool.
Neither have I.
I bought this. That's the only time I've been there.
Good looking.
Thank you. And it wasn't until I got home, I put it on. I'm like, shit. I can hear it now. Oh, Q over there trying to be like Steve at Tinderbox. And no, I've got people that joke with me. They're like, oh, you think you're fancy now? You got the beard going?
Well, Miguel was his Mexican version of Steve. You're the Puerto Rican version of Steve. How about that?
I'll take that.
Okay.
That's a compliment.
I'll take that.
I can't do 20 push-ups, though. I tried.
We'll figure it out.
After we had the conversation, I tried. I stopped at 18.
It's harder than you think.
Yeah.
All right, so with new beginnings, I think that there's something that there's something to be said that we've talked about a lot tonight, that you don't want to wait.
Correct.
And going into the new year, it's not about. I appreciate, and I think that if that's what someone needs, you need that guide of a calendar. You need that. Use it, but it's to your guys' point, Q and Nate is we need to wake up with that, and you don't want to wait. You don't want to wait. And I'm going to use the extreme because we have this guest tonight with Q on this. Is that you don't want to wait until you're actually forced
Correct.
to live within four walls that you don't have any opportunity or any option to make a change in your life. So when you're in that career, you're in that relationship, and you're in that, and you're going down the road, and you're like, this is the best I have. Well, there's a side of it. If you're not doing the illegal activity, right, this actually is a good thing. Appreciate what you have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not always looking for the next thing. It's not always looking for the new beginning. It's not always looking for something that will make your life better because it's good now. Like Nate was talking about, to appreciate what you have. You know what I mean? You mentioned that earlier, is that you appreciate the good things. And when things are going good, that we don't realize how good they are. That's the big part of it. And sometimes, in my opinion, and I think on behalf of the Bourbon BS podcast, is that when you have that realization that things are going well, that is the new beginning.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
It is.
So with that, I'm not going to mic drop it because these are expensive.
Yes,
I'm going to cheers to everyone. Your glass is empty there, Q. Cheers at empty coffee.
Salud.
Episode 97. Thank you all for tuning in. Please join the Bourbon and BS podcast, Bourbon and BS community page, and check us all out and continue the conversation. And we will talk to you guys next week. December 18th, we have Spencer Lappin back on, and also Bob Breyer is returning as a guest. Sweet. I got to be honest, next week will not be quite the same as last week with Sean and this week is with Q. We're going to have a lot of whiskey. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we'll have a little bit of lightheartedness, probably some seriousness leading in the holidays. So stay tuned next week, December 18th, leading in the holidays with Spencer Lappin and also Bob Breyer. I'm Steve Crane, Nate Hale, Q, Marquez. Cheers, everyone. Happy Whiskey Wednesday. Yep. I don't know if we're at Thursday yet. Cheers.